and welcome to another episode of the How Long to Beat podcast, a podcast by the How Long to Beat community and for the How Long to Beat community. We are in Season 4, Episode 2. My name is Diallo, and I am joined by my co-hosts. We have Roy.
Yo, it's me, Frozen Roy.
We have Leah.
Hello.
And we have Matt.
Good day.
All right, sweet. So let's talk about what we've played recently. Let's start off with the games that we've beaten, I guess. Anyone want to go first? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll talk about the itchmas games I beat later. So that leaves me with 2 games, which were both very short. The first is, a classic NES golf. We've all played it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we've wanted to play it, but we have.
Yeah.
It's NES golf. The D-pad makes the controls kind of weird. You can't really get precision controls. But, it's on the NES, so I can't complain that much. They didn't exactly have much of a choice. I did really bad. I just played 1 or 2 courses of the full 18 holes. I think I end up plus 40 because it took me a while to get used to some of the clubs and crap. Still basic kind of golf courses that a lot of the games still use kind of thing. Layouts are solid. Wouldn't say it was all that impressive or anything. For NES golf, it would get the job done. Yeah. It is golf.
A solid baseline.
Yeah.
It's basically isn't it basically the first golf game, I'm pretty sure?
No way it's the first golf game.
Well, first console golf game, maybe I should say. Because there's got to be an arcade
Was there
golf
one
game.
on Atari?
Yes,
Oh,
I
God,
remember
Atari,
playing a
what am I
mini
thinking?
golf game on Atari, and that was very good actually.
What am I thinking? Atari.
Yeah.
Duh. Although I think I do believe it's one of the first power meters in video games, so that's interesting.
An interesting claim.
Then the other game I played was Donkey Kong Jr., which also takes 15 minutes to beat. There's only 3 or 4 stages. Not as good as Donkey Kong. Shocking statement, I know.
Hot
The
take.
fall damage in that game is insane. You will make a little jump and you will die for sometimes inexplicable reasons. The collision is awkward. The idea is solid. I have wanted to play Donkey Kong Jr. Math, and now still interested in it. Because for some reason, Donkey Kong Jr. Math has a competitive 2-player mode. And I want to play competitive math.
Fuck yeah.
But,
Competitive math?
how fast can you do your
mathletes.
equations compared to your opponent? Gotta go fast.
That's exciting.
Also, weirdly, the last level of Donkey Kong Jr. is by far the easiest. So figure that one out.
Just a little victory lap for you.
Apparently. I wouldn't say I particularly enjoyed it, but it was 12 minutes.
You're really selling this game.
What a sell.
If you can waste 12 minutes of your life.
Fuck yeah. Does it actually have an end screen, or does it loop the levels until
It loops. You can keep going for a
Yeah,
high score.
okay.
There's a winning screen where you save Donkey Kong and Mario dies, but
Thank
then
God.
it just loops back over. Presumably
cool.
Mario had a 1-up mushroom on hand.
With some solid retro gaming then, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. It really was I'm gonna tell you right now, what happened is last night I had trouble sleeping. And I sometimes keep my Switch next to my bed in case I
Right.
kind of have that happen. So I just alright, I feel like just finishing some games. I really don't care what they are. I just feel like finishing a game. So I just opened my How Long to Beat account, put Nintendo Switch quickest games, and sure, NES Golf.
Oh my God.
So there you go, NES Golf and Donkey Kong Jr. Those are the only 2 ones I have to talk about. So somebody else's turn.
Wait, a little tangent before we go to the next person, but you mentioned being in the mood to just finish up some games, and I get those every now and then where I have cycles that I find where sometimes I'll be in a finishing games mood, so I'll have a bunch of games in progress, and I'll just I'll try to finish up 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah,
and then I'll
yeah.
have a starting games move where I'll start a new game and I'll play it for a couple hours, then I'll start another new game for a couple of hours, and so I'll get these little sections of my life where I have my backlog very much whittled down, and then it re-expands, and it whittles down, and then it re-expands. It's always kind of undulating.
I can
But
relate
I
to that a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's I just start 3 or 4 games, seeing if some clicks. And then sometimes like I just feel like finishing a game. I have an hour-long platformer in my backlog.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have little groups of games where I'm like, I know that these are going to be, I call them easy wins, where I'm just like, these are really an hour or two to beat, and I'm like, I can do 5 of those in a row, and I'm going to be like, look at that, I feel so accomplished. Yeah.
That instant
They got me to
gratification.
25 finish games this year, so.
Somebody wants to talk.
Oh, yeah.
Again, just really excited by Donkey Kong Jr., okay?
Yeah.
Liza wants to hear about Crow Country, maybe.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So I'll go next then. So the first game that I've beaten that I have to talk about is Crow Country, which is a game that I mentioned in episode 1. It's funny because when we recorded episode 1, I mentioned, I just started playing this right before the recording. And then after the recording, I went back and ended up beating it in a single sitting. Very, very good. So, in fact, it's my favorite game that I've beaten so far this year. I would say, like, I highly recommend this game. Just a little recap. I don't remember if I mentioned this last time, but the whole concept is that you're playing as this person in Mara Forest. You go to explore this abandoned theme park in Georgia called Crow Country, and it was shut down. You learned pretty early on that it was shut down because of some incidents that happened in the park. And then as you're exploring, you see all these monsters running amok and everything, and things go from there. It's a survival horror game that takes a lot of inspiration from Resident Evil, and I've heard some from Silent Hill as well. It's also presented in a very retro art style, so you have some sort of like chunky polygonal graphics. They apply the sort of CRT filter over everything that makes it look, very nostalgic and retro. So it's definitely trying to evoke that sort of sense of nostalgia for the for the players. But I enjoyed it a lot. It takes about 5-ish hours to get through. I went into it not expecting it to have a super deep story because the only survival horror games I played before this were Resident Evil, where the story sort of takes like a backseat. But when I got towards the end of this game, I was very surprised to discover just how thought out and fully fleshed the story is. It's really cool to see. Yeah, there's just a lot about that's gone into it. I really like the story. I think there's a lot of cool things. I ended up doing a second playthrough of the game so I could sort of like go back. Oh, A, I wanted to get the platinum, and B, I wanted to sort of like go back and see some of the foreshadowing that they sneak in throughout the story. And it's just like really incredible if you go back a second time and see just how much little hints they drop about like the overarching mystery of the game. Highly recommended. I liked it a lot. I think Matt saw me play a little bit of my second playthrough.
Mhm.
I streamed a bit of that. But yeah, definitely like the game a lot. It's got a really good soundtrack. It's really fun to play. My one complaint is that there's a lot of puzzles in the game, and there's basically 2 different sort of hint systems for how they give hints about the puzzles. You have this one mechanic which is the fortune teller. So I think you have up to you've got 10 tokens you can use throughout the game, and you can spend if you ever get stuck, you can go to the fortune teller and spend a token, and they'll give you a hint about what you should do next. And then you also have in-game memos that you find where the characters. They're written from the point of view of characters in the story, like who are, like worked at the park or something. They just like left little memos around, being like, oh, the combination for this was XYZ, or don't forget that this store has such and such mechanic or whatever. So I think it's really cool that they have all the little hints scattered around. I'm always in favor of people making things more accessible, but I do think they were a bit heavy-handed in how they delivered some of the hints. Like you'll get multiple hints for the same puzzle. So like first you'll get one that sort of like suggests the answer, and then after you find a couple more hints, you'll find ones that just pretty much flat out spell out the answer. There's one puzzle in particular I'm thinking of where you find the answer for the puzzle before you even encounter the puzzle in the game, and I wish they would have just like toned that down a little bit. Like
that does seem like quite a lot if they're giving you the answer before you even encounter the puzzle.
Right. So like I do appreciate that there is like sort of like the assistance for if you get stuck, but I feel like they could have toned it down just a tiny bit. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, I thought it was a really fantastic game. Highly recommend. Crow Country. Had a lot of fun with it. My game of the year of the 2024 games that I've played so far.
That's pretty exciting.
Oh, I will say, so Metaphor is probably going to be my ultimate game of the year for 2024, but I haven't beaten that one yet. But of the games that I've beaten, yeah, it's Crow Country.
It's the kind of thing where you can't say Metaphor's game of the year yet, but you kind of figure what's going to happen.
It's my projected game of 2024.
Yeah.
Right.
The next game that I beat is something. Oh, go for it.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
For you before you. So we know that crows don't wear ties, but do plumbers.
Oh my
Fuck.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
Let's go.
Oh
Beautiful, beautiful
gosh.
segue.
I might be in physical pain.
Yeah.
So the next game that I beat, as so beautifully segued, was Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, which is nothing like Crow Country, and it was a very interesting experience. So for the uninitiated, and I was also part of the uninitiated, it is, I didn't realize this at the time, but it's a notorious game from the 90s. It's an FMV dating
Uninitiated
sim.
into the order of the plumber.
It's an FMV dating sim, but it's FMV minus the full motion, because instead of having recorded scenes, it's just like a slideshow of pictures, basically. Well, I was interested in this game because I'd seen a friend play about like half an hour or so of it on stream, and I thought it was going to be sort of like a little campy, over the top, so bad it's good kind of adventure. After playing it, I discovered that 30 minutes is not much shorter than the entirety of the game. It's a very short one. It doesn't last very long at all. And it's sad to report that it wasn't so bad it's good. It's just sort of so bad that it's bad. It's almost like the room of dating sims, you could say. It's a mess. There's a lot of strange stuff that happens. So after I finished it, I was like, why on earth did they remaster this game? Because they did a definitive edition that they released last year, which is why it was on my radar, I guess. And so I found.
I love that it's on the Switch.
Yeah, it's on Switch now. They remastered it for modern consoles. It's on Switch. It's on like PlayStation. It's on Xbox. But I found a video from Limited Games explaining why they remastered it, and they sort of had this whole spiel about, as video game historians, we feel like it's our responsibility to sort of to immortalize games, even the bad ones. And I was like, okay, cool, sure, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But this seems
Here's
like
my
a steep price
theory.
for that.
They re-released it because it's funny. And there's no greater power than being funny.
Like, it definitely has its moments. It's bizarre. I'm not upset that I experienced it. I will say that my time could have been better spent.
You could have played NES Golf and
I could have played
Donkey Kong Jr.
I could have done that. I could have done both of those.
You also could have just watched the Angry Video Game Nerd video on it, which I'm pretty sure is like the main reason why people even talk about this game these days.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. I hadn't even heard of that until after I beat the game and I posted about it in a Discord server, and my friends were like, why did you play that?
Yeah.
And they were like, the only reason I know of this game is because of the Angry Video Game Nerd, because of his video. So I went and watched that afterwards, and I could definitely relate to a lot of the complaints that he had. I will say the title theme is very catchy. It got stuck in my head for several days afterwards after I beat the game. If you're curious about Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, I would say just watch a playthrough, or watch the Angry Video Game Nerd video.
I'm a big fan of full motion video games, but I don't know that I can make myself get through that.
Yeah.
To me, the funniest thing was hearing it referred to as a dating sim, because it's not wrong, but also it's never how I'd think about it.
Yeah.
It's just it feels like a very identity confused game. It feels like they had a lot of ideas and they didn't know what to do with all of them, and they just kept all of them in the end.
I think their idea was just plumber.
Like at one point you have a narrator in like a chicken mask, and then you have like this girl come in and like martial arts some guy to death or something. I don't know. It's there's there's a lot of weird stuff that happens with it.
Plumbers don't wear ties, and hopefully they also don't waste your time.
Snaps to that. Last game that I beat is the game that I probably will have the most to say about. It's this game called Who's Lila? And I know that after we finished recording episode 1, I remember I mentioned to Matt that I was excited to talk to you about this one in particular. So my feelings on this game definitely went on a full 180 over the course of the 3-ish days that I played it. So I started off feeling very underwhelmed, not super sold on it, and then towards the end I was like, okay, there's kind of something a bit special going on here. So I'll sort of talk about my playthrough with the game and the evolution of my feelings towards it. But what initially drew me to the game is the art style. So it's done in this art style. It's called Ditherpunk, I guess. So if you're familiar with Return of the Obra Dinn, which by the way is a game that I was considering mentioning as one of my like foundational video games last episode, because I love that game so much. But sort of the whole monochromatic, very pixelated art style. So like things like Return of the Obra Dinn or World of Horror. I'm a sucker for that kind of art style. So when I saw that, that was one thing that drew me in. The other thing that really drew me in from the description of the game was the game's sort of central mechanic, which is that you have to manually control the main character's facial expressions. So the game is presented in sort of like a split screen view. The left side you have sort of like the world that you're interacting with, and the right side just has a person's face. And so as you're navigating various dialogues in the there are certain points you have to manipulate the character's facial expression. So you're like literally drag and dropping like his eyelids. You're like moving like the corners of his mouth up and down and stuff to make him like make various facial expressions. I was like, that sounds
So they made the Super Mario 64 starting screen into a game mechanic.
That's exactly what I thought too. Yeah.
It's not too far off from that. And I was like, that sounds super interesting. I've never heard of any game that does anything before, so that's what made me take the plunge for this one. So to set the stage, you play as this high school kid, and one of your classmates has gone missing. And when you first enter the game, you can already tell that it's going to be like there's already an immediate sense of like melancholy. It just seems like a very bleak, desolate world. The lighting's kind of like dark. You can tell that something feels a little bit off. This is a horror game. I forgot about this going into it because I bought it maybe a couple weeks before I played it. It's like spooky stuff. But yeah, I forgot that it had like horror elements. Because there was a gap of a couple weeks between me purchasing the game and setting it up. And so I got a little bit surprised with some of like the scarier parts. There were some jump scares that got me. There's definitely like a lot of creepy, melancholy stuff that's going on. So on day one of the game, one of the things that initially jumped out at me in a negative way is that there's a lot of typos. So the game was made by a Russian developer called Garage Heathen, and I think that he did the English translation himself, which is very impressive. But I think it would have benefited greatly from having a proofreader. This might be because like, I did some editing work in the past, but there's just like a lot of typos, which sort of took me out a little bit. Another complaint that I found in day one of playing is that you have to walk around a lot in the game, but sometimes it feels kind of floaty. Like you click a point in the map, and that's where your character is supposed to walk to, but it's not 100% like fine-tuned properly. So sometimes you'll click on a point, and the character will just keep walking, which doesn't sound like the biggest deal in the universe, but there are some sections that involve stealth, and if your character is not like moving the way that you want it to do, like you have to sort of repeat those sections over and over and over again because the mechanics are being a bit too floaty. So I got a little bit frustrated with that. So I played it for like maybe like an hour, like 90-ish minutes on day one. I got a couple of endings, eventually hit the credits, and I was like, okay, cool, that was an interesting enough experience, but I'm not fully understanding like what the rave reviews were on Steam. Like it was novel enough, but I'm not fully sold. And so my plan was to go back to the second day, see a couple of the other endings, because like it becomes very apparent that it's a game that has like multiple endings. And I assumed initially that it was going to be just like, minor variations on a single ending. So my plan was, okay, day two I'll come back and I'll see some of the other endings and I'll retire this one. Day two I go in with that expectation, and then as I'm going through the other endings, it hits me just like how in-depth this game actually is. Because it's not just like minor variations of the same ending. It's basically what happens is, it's not like a sort of like linear path where you're going, okay, beginning, middle, end, ending. It's sort of like every time you hit an ending, it reveals more of the overarching story in the world. So to understand the entire story, you have to sort of like experience all the different endings. There's like, I think 20-ish endings. Yeah. So it's to even call them endings feels a little bit like a bit of a misnomer, because it's kind of just like bit of lore part 1, bit of lore part 2, kind of, in the way that it ends up being tying into the grand story of the game. But yeah, as I was going through all those other endings, that's when I really discovered just like how in-depth the world building and the lore is in this game, and it goes to some pretty interesting places, I'll say. I'm going to give some very minor mechanical spoilers for the game, so if you don't want to go in completely blind, I would recommend turning your ears off for the next like 30-ish seconds. But the reason that I want to mention it to you, Matt, is because it goes kind of like Daniel Mullins-y in the sense that you get some ARG elements.
Oh shit!
Yeah, there's like a lot of it goes really weird places, and it gets really interesting. So yeah, after that, like after discovering all that in day 2, it renewed my interest in the game. And on my day 3, I'd done all but like 1 or 2 of the endings. I pretty much almost 100%ed it.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I did a full 180, like I said. I went from being on the fence to being like, okay, there actually is a lot going on. I liked it. I'm very impressed by like the world building, by the story, just like how much thought has gone into it. I do still have some complaints, like like the typos, and stuff, and also I think that some of the mechanics aren't fully. I had to rely a lot on walkthroughs for the game because I feel like a lot of things aren't 100% well explained in game. There was one sort of basic mechanic that I didn't realize until my second or third playthrough, and I'm forgetting what it was at this point. But I was I wish that there had been some sort of in-game explanation for how to do this. And then also I felt like the whole mechanic about contorting the face is a neat concept, but it didn't really seem to integrate itself super well with the central story of the game. I felt like they could have been two different games. You could have one game with a sort of facial mechanic thing and the other game about the story that the game is trying to tell. But overall, even though I had some gripes with that, I was definitely impressed by it. Definitely recommend it if you like sort of mystery games like that. It's a game that will stick with me for a while, and if you play this game, you'll understand what a chilling sentence that is. But that was my experience with Who's Lila.
Yeah, I'm super interested in this.
Basically, as soon as I had Return of the Aubergine art style and mechanic that's like Super Mario 64 start screen, I'm sold.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of strange because that the mechanic is sort of on the Steam page, it's kind of the thing that they put first and foremost.
Yeah.
But it really is not sort of the central focus of the game, I wouldn't say.
Just a unique selling point. There you go.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Meat and potatoes.
A unique selling point's a unique selling point.
Right. It doesn't come into play as much as you would expect it to, is what I would say. But again, there is interesting stuff happening in this game. I think if you're a fan of this style of game, it's definitely worth checking out. Despite the complaints that I had.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it for sure.
Yeah.
I also didn't have a lot outside of the itchmas games. I finished Lake Season Greetings, the DLC for Lake. It was good. It wasn't as amazing as the base game, I would say. And it also didn't have branching endings also. Like the first game, you could romance two of the people in town. And then at the end you have to pick, are you going to stay with them? Are you going to leave town? Are you going to, So I think technically there's 5-ish endings for it. But for the DLC, I think it was basically just the one. I can't really see how they would branch that out anymore than it was. And none of the actual choices I got to make really mattered. So it felt like half-baked DLC, but it was good because I enjoyed that game. So to have a little bit more of a story was nice. I also finished Dredge, which I really wanted to like.
Yeah, you said this, yeah.
But oh my god, the way that information is presented to you in this game, I don't expect the game to handhold very much, but if you don't explore every part of this map, you won't know what you're supposed to do. So it was very confusing for me because I was just I wanted to explore, but I didn't know where to go to do anything. And they just gave you a map and it was explore. And I was I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know who I am. I don't know who we're looking for. None of that was given to me. Apparently there's multiple endings, but you don't know that there's multiple endings until you get to the ending. And then you have to play to find out the other ending.
Yeah.
I guess that's a sort of... if I know that there's multiple endings going into a game, I'm going to try to attempt to get the best ending. So that's generally what I try to do if I know that there's multiple endings. I kind of knew that there were different endings, but it just ended and I was nobody told me that was a section that I had to go look at. So it was how was I supposed to know that I was supposed to go find this hobo on this land that was going to... I think I started in October, and by the time I hit December, I was ready to be done. So I just looked up the main chapters and was tell me what I need to do and just get me out of this game for good. So, yeah, right? So yeah, I finished that, and I won't be looking at that game again.
I have to say...
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
I think your experience with Dredge sounds a little bit similar to mine in that I liked the gameplay loop for the first maybe 75% of the game. I liked the whole sort of fishing loop and everything. Yeah. But then towards the end, I just felt like it didn't build on from that. It just got kind of repetitive towards the end, and I was kind of ready to be done with it by the time I got to the end. Also on the subject of the endings, I got the bad ending the first time around, and I was like, oh, that felt a little bit underwhelming. And then I googled it and learned that it was the bad ending, so I went back and got the good ending. The good ending didn't feel any much more rewarding. So
well, that's great.
I just watched somebody else get the good ending, and I'm like, I still don't know anything. Like, it gives me no closure.
Right.
You have to pay us back with fish. I was like, okay, did that. Now what? Who knows? I don't like. I really wanted to play that, and just like, I guess maybe I also built it up in my mind where I was like, everybody loves this game, I'm gonna love it, and
that's not good. Yeah.
I think it has potential, but I feel like there's a little something that needs to be ironed out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what else they do from those devs, because it seems like they've done some pretty interesting games before that. So, and also they had that crossover with Dave the Diver, which I also didn't. I only played like the demo, and I wasn't really a fan of that one. So I was really hoping Dredge was going to be the one. But they're doing crossovers and stuff, so there's a audience somewhere for it. But yeah,
I mean, it looks cool.
It does, yeah. The other game that I also finished, in that I have completed all the achievements possible, is not even a game. It's Spirit City's Lo-Fi Sessions.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, I'm curious too.
It's like a productivity suite of things, where it's like you have a Pomodoro timer, you have like a task list, you have habits. The main thing that I use it for is it also has like lo-fi music that you can listen to, playlists, and soundscape. So it's basically a white noise simulator. So I like to have like the fire crackling and the city sounds and the bird noises and that sort of stuff going on in the background. So I usually just have it kind of just minimized during my day. So different achievements you can get, like there's certain animals that they call spirits based around certain things that you can do in the room. So it's like, you know, if you're reading by the fireplace, you'll like unlock the spirit that, you know, is a bookworm or something like that. And then like you unlock the gaming one by playing your game by the desk or something like that. So I unlocked all their spirits, and I have gotten the last achievement for, I think it's like up to level 50 you can get in the game. And so I have basically 100% it, this non-game.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, but they also have pretty cool, like that you can dress up your avatar, you can change the room around. So like I just spend a lot of time just like collecting points to like change my avatar's outfits around. They had like a nice little Halloween update that they did, and then they did one for winter also, so you could like deck out the whole room and your avatar and like Christmas stuff and Halloween stuff and stuff like that. They also have really cool, like it's not just the Christmas update that they did, because there was like Kwanzaa stuff in there and Hanukkah stuff and Yule, so that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and then everything else I have beaten this month has been itchmas. So
do you think this lo-fi productivity game has any actual connection to the famous lo-fi girl YouTube thing that made it famous? This whole thing?
I think they were inspired by that.
At least that, yeah, definitely.
But the music that they have, artists that does a lot of lo-fi stuff, and all their tracks that they have in the game are like usable on Twitch. Like they won't get like a copyright strikes or whatever. So a lot of streamers use this as like their co-working stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mainly just end up just minimizing it once I started, and then I'm just like, all right, I'll just gain points passively, I guess, while I listen to fake birds and fake city sounds.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who knows? Perhaps this podcast can be somebody's productivity lo-fi tool.
You think somebody can be productive while we are blabbering in their ear? I don't think. I don't know about that.
If you want the podcast to end, you've got to finish your work. Get on it.
Oh my god!
Wow.
That's brutal.
All right. I will be sure to have that playing while I edit this episode.
Right. Okay. Right. I guess it's my turn for my beaten garbage.
I see you have a pretty hefty list this time around.
Mega list.
It's kind of funny. Y'all have been saying that you haven't really been playing that much recently. It's like the complete opposite for me. I've like been doing so much gaming, and I don't even know what to. I'm gonna be bunching up a lot of games here to like kind of get through these without taking 3 hours.
I will say there's one of these on here I'm interested in hearing about just because of the title, and I don't know if you're even gonna talk about it, but it's the Lila and the Shadows of War one.
Lila and the Shadows of War is a very short puzzle platformer that's, I think, only being released on mobile, or maybe there's like a browser version or whatever. But I played the mobile version on Android. And it's a short puzzle platformer that's more there for like an educational purpose, because it is about people experiencing the Israel-Palestine conflict. And, you know, it's just a snippet of that in an educational way. There's not really much more to say about that, but it was pretty neat. Gameplay-wise, obviously very bare bones. I'm more interested in what the developer is doing next, because they are working on a bigger game with a bigger scope.
That's cool. I gotta say, that was not remotely what I expected from the name.
Yeah. I imagined.
but that actually makes it kind of neat.
Oh, it's on Edge. Yeah, true. Yeah, you could just go play it. It's like 5 minutes or whatever, maybe 10. But it's, you know, it's heavy subject, so you gotta expect that.
Yeah,
it
looks like it's free. I'll download it.
Yeah. But aside from that, what's much less heavy? Here's the first package of video games that have like a thematic like line through, because
you've heard of the Humble Bundle. We got the Matt bundle.
Yes. Well, there's a bunch of Matt bundles, but the first bundle is about falling blocks. Recently, a brand new fresh Tetris release hit the stores. We got Tetris Forever, which is essentially a game collection, because this release works as a sort of interactive museum about the history of the Tetris franchise from beginning to current days. Right. And it has a whole bunch of different Tetris games from this history of the franchise that you are able to play fully. Basically a big old emulator collection for all sorts of Tetris games. And I've been spending time with that shit, and I've beaten a couple of those, or whatever you can like consider beaten in like a Tetris game. A couple of them have actual like campaigns with a win state, with an end screen. Among them, Tetris Battle Gaiden, which was originally a Japanese exclusive game on the Famicom, which is now for the first time on the international market. I'm so glad that it is, because Tetris Battle Gaiden is genuinely one of the best Tetris spin-offs I have ever played in my life. And I've played a lot of Tetris spin-offs. This one is has a versus fighting concept where you basically battle a different character. There are a couple of different characters to choose from, which all have their unique abilities that you can use in the like quote-unquote fight. And you still have the regular Tetris style falling block stuff going on with clearing lines to gain like your energy to do your special abilities. And you also, both of you as a player and your NPC opponent, you both draw your tetraminos from the same pool. So you do see the preview of what the next piece is gonna be. But whoever like places their current block, whoever places their current block first gets that piece.
Like that.
Yeah, so there's an actual strategic like facet to that. If you want to steal this good piece from the other player, or you like prolong dropping your current piece so your enemy gets a shit piece that's coming up or whatever. And then of course with the different abilities, there's a lot of really cool strategy in this game. And then of course it has an actual campaign that you can play through and then beat and be finished. It's genuinely one of the most fun and interesting Tetris games I have ever seen. And for this alone, I feel like Tetris Forever, the collection, is kind of worth it. The only thing that could improve it would be if it actually had online multiplayer, which it doesn't, but I don't know, maybe that's coming in an update someday. I can dream at least.
That'd be cool. I'm gonna add it to my wish list.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, Tetris Forever in general is just a really good release. I recommend that wholeheartedly if you're like interested in Tetris.
I am interested. I can't afford it, but I am interested.
Someday it will be on sale, surely.
I would imagine.
Another game in that collection that I have actually beaten because it had a sort of campaign to be beaten is a release called Tetris 2 plus Bombless, which was also originally a Japanese exclusive on the Famicom. And this release is like a dual thing where it has your regular Tetris, but it also has this, at the time, newfangled bombless mode where the tetraminos have bombs in them that you trigger to explode, and that is how you clear blocks. It's not about actually just clearing a full line like classic style or whatever. And this game has a so-called contest mode, which is basically a puzzle mode where you have 30 different screens that you have to fully clear in 100 pieces or less. And then if you get through them all, you get a credit roll and you're done. And I was probably really bad at this game. I was probably really strategically awful. But I did make my way through this contest mode eventually, struggling a lot, but eventually getting it done. And it was actually one of the most satisfying credit rolls I ever got because the final levels were so difficult to me. The whole bombless gimmick or whatever you want to call it is also honestly one of the most successful Tetris gimmicks I have ever seen. A lot of Tetris games try to do something new, but the new features often just feel like unnecessary and don't really blend well with Tetris. But in Bombless, this bomb mechanic actually works really well, and I guess people at the time recognized that because there's like a million different Bombless sequels, which I'm gonna shortly mention later on in the retired category. I had my time with Tetris 2 plus Bombless on the Famicom, and that was enough. But that time was fantastic.
So what are the bombless mechanics?
Well, it's literally just you have your tetraminos. Actually, that's not really true. You have your blocks, your Tetris blocks, although in this game there's also new shapes, which are annoying sometimes. But the bombless gimmick is that there are bombs embedded in the Tetris blocks. And instead of having a regular line clear, you aim to explode those bombs by putting them together and whatnot.
I feel like I played that as like a game mode and like not one of the Tetris games, but one of the games that's like adjacent to a Tetris game.
Maybe. In the USA it was Tetris Blast later on, yeah.
Featuring Wario.
Was that Tetris Blast? Was that? Oh my god. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Maybe, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's oh no, it was Wario Blast featuring Bomberman, but I believe it is a
yeah, okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
It's important.
You know what else is important? Having played 3 different versions of Hatris, which is Alexei, the creator of Tetris, had a bunch of wild ideas after the success of Tetris. And Hatris is one of them, where you stack hats, different kinds of hats.
As one does.
Yeah. I think it's generally regarded as one of those weird games of his that are, I think most people just regard it as like an oddity and not really as a proper good game or whatever. But it is odd, but once you like actually figure out the mechanics, it can actually be very fun. And I am actually aiming to go back to those and like get high scores. I got them here in the beating category because it doesn't really have like a beatable campaign or whatever. In classic Tetris style, this is purely to chase a high score. And in my eyes, if you get a high score, you basically have like quote unquote beaten a Tetris game. It's the closest you can get to that in a lot of cases. Yeah.
I remember when I beat quote unquote Game Boy Tetris, I had set a goal to clear 100 lines. So when I did
Right,
that,
yeah.
beaten Tetris. It's like a self-goal kind of thing.
Yeah. With Tetris, I played 3 different versions. I played this is important, the Japanese original Famicom version, the international Game Boy version, and then the US NES version. And all 3 of those versions have slightly different mechanics, which is wild to me. I don't think I'm gonna go into detail of those for the sake of time, but I'm gonna say that the Game Boy version is the best one with the best
I was
mechanics
gonna
and the
ask.
best balancing. Yeah.
So if you play Tetris, go Game Boy.
Yes, go Game Boy. Though it is interesting for interest's sake, the US NES version actually has Alexei and his co-working buddy Vladimir as like helping characters. So they hang around the screen and you can trigger them to do their abilities. And it's just really curious to have like the developers of a game be basically characters in the game. It was kind of funny to see. But yeah, gameplay wise, the Game Boy one wins for sure. That was my first thematic package. Looking at the time.
Real quick, just before you go to the next one, I just want to say one more thing. When you first added Tetris Battle Gaiden to the document, I forget when. At first, I thought it said Tetris Ninja Gaiden, and I was very confused.
No, that would be awesome. Like combining 2 of the best gaming franchises of all time. I would be all over that.
They'd have
I don't
to make
know
it
how
really
that would
hard
work.
somehow.
Next up is Tetris Double Dragon.
Gosh.
Actually, that would be really interesting. You have to clear 2 games of Tetris at the same time, and they have different block falling.
So that's actually a thing that people do. That's actually a category.
Okay.
Maybe on speedrun.com or whatever, but it's definitely like a contest thing that people do. It's wild.
That sounds neat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. What I am gonna do though is play a million snowmobile video games because that's my second package here.
As one does.
Yeah, I mean, since it is winter, I was looking for like proper games for winter, proper games to play this season. And being somebody who loves snowy environments and racing games, anyway, I was very much looking for things that will combine those things. And I guess a snowmobile racing game is like the thing that will combine those things. So I played 5 of them. I consider all of this important journalism. So this is a service I provide for other people. So I need to be thorough.
Snowmobile expose.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the last episode already. Snowmoto Racing Freedom, which I played on PC.
Yeah, you did, I believe.
Yeah, because that was a game that I like originally played years ago and then dropped. Ironically, I think I also mentioned that. Ironically, I did talk about this game before when I was guest on a previous season of the podcast. And back then I said it was like okay, but pretty bland and dropped it. And I recently gave it another shot and actually finished it this time. And I still stand to it though that is pretty bland. It hits a solid baseline with decent like game feel, and it is a feature complete game with a lengthy campaign and whatever, but it is very bland. It doesn't really have much variety in terms of visual presentation or whatever. The track design is very like functional, but nothing exciting or memorable. So it's mid, as the kids say these days.
Normal mid.
Yeah. I followed that up with Polaris Snowcross on the PlayStation 1, which is Polaris is an actual brand of snowmobiles, so there was a bit of a budget behind this, I think. And this one, being a PlayStation 1 generation like retro racing game, it has a much more fun presentation. It has some track designs that are like way more interesting than Snowmoto Racing Freedom had. But it is also finicky with its physics and can be a bit frustrating in that regard, especially in the beginning when you have lower stats and you can fall off your snowmobile very easily. That can be really frustrating for a long time. But track design was pretty good, and the campaign was short but satisfying. Didn't overstay its welcome. So this was already a step up. I also played the Game Boy Color port of that thing, just out of curiosity, because being on a Game Boy Color, of course, it wouldn't be like 3D environment stuff thing.
Yeah.
The Game Boy Color version does the top-down view, the bird's eye view thing, which is not usually something I like in my racing game ever. Curiosity and looking for variety, I just gave it a shot. And like, to be fair, the presentation is really good in terms of visuals. Like the sprite art is really good and the soundtrack is actually really fun. And I give them props for actually trying to provide a full package with some track design variety, despite the limitations. But it also never actually overcomes the inherent limitations of the like top-down view racing, where you can't see much of the track that's coming at you, and it's kind of hard finding your way through the track unless you actually know it inside out and whatever. That also adds a really, really tough difficulty curve later on, which also probably just comes intentionally, because back in the days you did that to prolong your short game and whatever, that sort of thing. So not a game that I would recommend, but neat. Following that, I got Sledstorm on the PS1, which this is the one you should be taking note of if you're looking for a snowmobile game, because this is the actual one that I would wholeheartedly recommend.
All right.
Which I'm apparently not the only one. It seems like this one was just critically acclaimed at the time of its release and is still just generally considered one of the best games in the subgenre. I agree. It has super fun presentation, really satisfying vehicle upgrade system, insanely fun track designs with some awesome set pieces and everything. It's just a full package. It rules, and it has one Rob Zombie track where probably a lot of the budget went, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Sledstorm fucking slaps. I fucking love this game. It's the best snowmobile racing game I played, but it also just genuinely became one of my favorite racing games in general now.
It was truly the perfect storm for you.
It's, the perfect storm of different things, for sure. It's not perfect, but it is definitely a hell of a fun time.
That's my wish list, just to remember it.
I love to hear it. I hope I get to hear your experience with that someday. And to actually finish this snowmobile section off, final game that I played was Ski-Doo Snowmobile Challenge on the PlayStation 3, doing a little bit of a generational jump. This was also interesting for me because the generation of PS3, Xbox 360, Wii is one that I didn't experience myself at the time at all. I think this is legit the first PlayStation 3 game ever I actually played from front to back. But that aside, this game, is comparing it to the other snowmobile games, it's a very good one. It feels good, aside from the odd little game design quirk that can get annoying, especially when it piles up in unfortunate moments. But overall, very good engine, very good vehicle feel, and a couple of interesting track designs and environments. Super lackluster upgrade system, though. That one was trash, like barely anything you can do there. It hits a solid baseline. It is at least somewhat more interesting than the aforementioned Snow Motor Racing Freedom, which had no personality at all. Plus, Ski-Doo Snowmobile Challenge did something that none of the other games did. It added a sort of new category of so-called hill climb races, where you, like it says, you race up a mountain in a special little category. And that was actually really fun and fresh. And I hope other games that I'm exploring in the future do something like that as well. So that was that little package of things. I got a bunch of other shit that I played. Okay, let me do one sentence for each of the rest. And then I'm gonna let you all go.
You still have
from this TED
I mean,
talk.
There's 2 packages left, though. You gotta get through them.
I mean, just keep going, my man.
Just keep going. You can do it.
Fuck. Okay.
We gotta pray for the package.
Shit. I played so much. So I got more winter games here.
I gotta just say, we have webcams on. I see Matt just glancing at his watch while he's getting ready for the next session.
Just sweating, just my head in my hands, and
These weak palms are sweaty.
No one's ever been so ashamed about playing games before.
I'm so sorry I've been playing video games. I'm thanking you all for being so brave and keeping with me here.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, so seasonal shit. I've played stuff that was cold because I like that. And I was really going for all the seasonal stuff this month. I've played The Whisperer, which was an okay point-and-click mystery game. Really not much to say there. I played That Which Gave Chase, which was a much more interesting story-driven horror game about dog sledding. I'm recommending that one. It's on Steam. You can find that there. Best to go in with Little Sad. I played Pray for the Gods, which was an Arctic Nordic Shadow of the Colossus tribute thing, which a lot of cool ideas and design choices, in like visual design choices, but gameplay wise, too many features, too many mechanics that had no reason to be there, and just bloated it all, I guess, maybe for lack of a better word, and a bunch of like technical quirks, which it was a shame. Again, really cool designs in the enemy department and whatever, and like the Colossus department and whatever, but just too many little faulty design choices or like misguided ideas that like bogged it all down. Mission in Snow Driftland. Does anybody remember this shit? Because this was originally a browser game on the Nintendo website like 15 years ago. Like 15 years ago, whatever. It was a browser game on Nintendo website as a sort of advent calendar thing where people were able to play one level a day and then be rewarded with an ad for like some upcoming Nintendo game or whatever.
What a reward.
Yeah. The reward is a commercial.
Was a pure marketing thing. This game ruled though, because this is an actually solid 2D platformer, and it garnered such a cult following or whatever that it actually got a full standalone release 1 or 2 years ago. Decade later or whatever. Yeah, like a decade later after this was a thing, people remembered this, and I think there was a crowdfunding thing or whatever, and like people paid money to make this thing like its own actual playable game. And it's good. It's a good 2D platformer. I liked it a lot. There's a whole thing where apparently the son of the developer showed up in my Twitch stream for it, and I believe it.
Whoa.
I online stalked them. I actually believe it, but I've
online stalked them.
Apparently that son of the developer's son just likes to watch people play his dad's game or whatever. That was an interesting experience. But yeah, that's that. Glacier Freedom Meltdown is an awful racing game. Don't ever fucking play this.
Okay.
Zool Redimensioned is an awesome 2D platformer remaster that I do recommend playing. This was a fun one. I played this as a kid on a Super Nintendo. Never beat it. Played it for the first time as an adult now. Finally beat it. Was satisfying. That's it. That's a story. And the fucking final game in my beaten category here, which maybe I'll talk about later, because there's gonna be a relating game in a different category coming up. I've beaten Tram Simulator Urban Transit, which I've been like hacking away for this entire year, and I finally like finished the final campaign quest, this is literally just a tram simulator game.
I mean, it's right in the title.
Yeah. It's literally what it claims to be, and it was a fun experience. I'm gonna stop it here. I've rambled on too long. Please.
Well, in that case,
yes. Please.
In that case, we're gonna go on to the retired and pause segments, and I believe I'm going to start that segment off. I've retired and paused 0 games. All right, who's next?
Damn.
I'll follow along on a similar note. I've also got nothing for this section.
No. Don't do this.
Okay. Either one of you can go next, though.
Okay, well.
Not again. I'm kidding.
All right, to give Matt some time in between.
Thank you.
I will talk. What can you say about games to be tired? So it's not going to be very long. But at least you have some stuff.
There's stuff to say that. I see a lot of tension.
What I've retired lately is we were playing Doom Eternal for Game of the Month, and very early on I realized it is not the game for me, because I was expecting a lot more shooting and less platforming. I wasn't really looking to jump over ledges and stuff in that game. I played it as much as I could, and then I just kept dying, and I was like, you know what? I'm not having fun. It was supposed to be for the game of the month. I did my time. I retired that one.
It wasn't very eternal.
Yeah, it was not. It was very finite for me. Also, Oddworld Abe's Oddysee, which is a game that I started playing back on PlayStation 1. I only had like the demo of it back then, so slowly over the years, I've collected all of the Oddworld Oddysee games to play. So I tried starting this up to start my trek through, and I realized that there is apparently a remaster of this that is less frustrating than the PlayStation version. So I've retired this to go jump over to New and Tasty, which is the remastered version of that. And the other things I have retired are itchmas games, so we'll get to those, I guess.
Right.
Well, in that case, I believe it's
later.
about time to return to the How Long to Matt podcast.
Fuck. It truly has become the Tetris podcast, because that's all I want to be talking about now.
I've got to wonder, what the hell is this one?
Oh, sure. Let's start with the non-Tetris one. If you maybe have heard of it, but there's a little thing called Christmas in December that happened.
Oh, really?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've tried to get into the mood with some gaming, quote-unquote gaming. One of those things is Chris Rea's Driving Home for Christmas YouTube game. It's a choose your own adventure video thing on YouTube based on the Christmas song by Chris Rea.
Wait, what Christmas song are you even talking about?
Driving Home for Christmas by Chris Rea. It's a Christmas song. I don't know, you might have heard it.
I don't know if I have.
It's fine. I like it. I like the song. It's one of the few Christmas songs I'm not annoyed with immediately.
Give me the My Chemical Romance Christmas game and I'll play that.
It's too hardcore for this. Yeah, but yeah, anyway, this is just like a choose your own adventure video thing. Like, it's neat. It's on the official Chris Rea YouTube channel. It has typos in the lyrics, which is fucking cringe, but but that's really all I can say about this. There's really nothing.
Is it still available?
Oh yeah, it is. And the driver drives on the left side of the road, but it's not a UK car, so lots of questions with that one.
Maybe he's a tourist.
Guess so.
Just a disclaimer to anyone traveling abroad: please abide by the traffic country that you're in, even if you're a tourist.
Yeah, that's that. Let me talk about my actual passion, Tetris. Yeah, Tetris Forever. It's a collection with lots of games, and lots of them I retired. Here's that. Super Tetris 3 on the Super Nintendo is a weird game that's trying to do new gimmicks. Multiple of them in different game modes, and none of them like really worked for me now. I'm willing to go back to that one to give it another shot and really get into those, but none of that shit like spoke to me on the first attempt. Super Bombliss DX, however, on the Game Boy Color is, like the title says, a sequel to the Bombliss spin-off series of Tetris. And this one has a cool mode where you play Tetris while a weird little creature runs around the board, and you have to actually kill it, like actively kill and fight it. And that's a super fun idea, and it seemed cool. So I'm willing to go back to that later, but I retired or shelved it for now, whatever. A non-Tetris game in the Tetris Forever collection. I apologize for the pronunciation now. Ego Q Robin Taikyoku, a Japanese exclusive Famicom game, and it's literally just a board game Go. It was in the Tetris Forever collection because of reasons I actually do not remember. It had an historical like meaning to the history of Tetris. I guess it was something Alexei worked on or something, like the Tetris creator. No, what's the other guy that the American
Hank
that
Rogers?
helped? Yeah, exactly. Hank Rogers was helping with getting this Go game internationally released or something. I don't know. Don't care. I like Go, the board game, but I didn't like mess with this Famicom game much.
I love Go.
No, yeah. Go rules, but I don't think I need it on Famicom. That's
How long to go?
Shush. Tetris on MS-DOS, released in 1988 because there was a million DOS Tetrises. This one is in the collection, and it is just, there's nothing special about it.
It's just Tetris.
It's literally just Tetris, and it doesn't even look that good, so whatever, dropped it. And then we got a million Bombliss offshoots. Super Tetris 2 plus Bombliss on Super Nintendo. Super Tetris 2 plus Bombliss Gentai Hen on Super Nintendo, Japanese exclusive.
Thank goodness they did not swap the first letter of those words.
Right.
Gente is like limited.
Yeah, it was some sort of special edition. Same game with like new puzzles or whatever. And Super Bombliss on Game Boy and International Super Nintendo. So these are all just offshoots / sequels of Bombliss. And since I already beaten the original Tetris 2 plus Bombliss, I did not feel like doing more of that. So they were all like looked at and then dropped for now. Maybe in like years, if I want more Bombliss, I go back to those. But Super Bombliss DX, the aforementioned on the Game Boy Color, has a much more interesting concept that I want to get back to at some point. That's all for the Tetris Forever collection, but I still got some Tetris stuff that was not part of this collection. So buckle up, buckaroos. The worst Tetris game that I've played all year is this thing called Tetris Christmas.
No, I was rooting for that one.
We all were.
Oh no.
I'm so
I'm
fucking
really
sorry.
interested in Tetris CDI. I really hope it has bad CDI cutscenes.
Yeah, no, hold on. Let me talk about CDI later because I actually have thoughts on that. But Tetris Christmas is sold on Steam for the low price of 99 cents. And it's shit. It's basic Tetris and it's bruised up with like early generative AI images as like backgrounds. Like it's not even like you don't even recognize what it's supposed to be. It's just like genuine slop. It's just like fever dreamish nonsense that's kind of supposed to resemble something.
It's a 99-cent game, not even worth 99 cents is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I would say so. And gameplay wise, it's like regular Tetris. It has a puzzle mode which I tried to beat out of spite, but which honestly it felt like I ran right into a trap and just like tried to like free myself by gnawing off my own limbs or something. It just didn't go anywhere. It just hurt myself more than anything.
Now touch on the dot where the Tetris hurt you.
Yeah, no, this was not a good time. Especially because if you fail a level in that puzzle mode, you get sent back all the way to the beginning. And I think I got like to level 11. I don't even know how many there are. I don't think anybody knows. Like genuinely, I doubt that anybody actually beat this thing. You know, getting set back every time, like having to get back to where you are left off, which takes its time as well. I was done after like played this for 2 hours or something, which is way too much. Like I tried to get in the Christmas spirit, like I said, and this did not help. This did not at all help.
It turned into a Scrooge instead.
I think that is worse than Chris Ria's Driving Home for Christmas YouTube.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, for sure. And then the final Tetris thing that I'm going to be mentioning today. Been very brave. Tetris on the CDI was a thing. I think the CDI is infamous for being like one, if not the worst, like game console of all time. It was basically a DVD player with like interactive menus as games. Right, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties was a CDI game, right? Originally?
No, it was 3DO.
Right. I keep mixing those two up. Okay, because they are very similar. But Tetris on the CDI is actually cool. Maybe one of the rare CDI games that actually kind of rule. It is regular Tetris, right? But the presentation is so cool with like chill lo-fi launch music, and the Tetris board is embedded in like real life footage, FMV footage of some tranquil nature spots with like a waterfall or like forestry or whatever. And it gives this sort of vibe or aesthetic that some people would call vaporwave nowadays, except that it was at the time like actually just a genuine, that's just how things were designed back in the day. It's not like an ironic late trying to get into that vibe. Yeah.
It's very genuine too, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it just from the presentation, I would like put this high up in my ranking of Tetris games. The problem is just that obviously I don't have an actual CDI. I was emulating this. Don't call the cops. And unfortunately, CDI emulation is unsurprisingly so not the smoothest. And I had problems with I had problems with the input on this, and Tetris is like wholly relying on like snappy inputs.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I wasn't really able to play this well. This is why it's, now retired or shelved or whatever until
Yeah.
the emulation catches up, because I would wholeheartedly love to play a ton of this version of Tetris. It's so gorgeous.
Maybe the guy who did Wand of Gamelon and Faces of Evil remaster could get Tetris CDI remastered.
Sure, I would pay money for that. I would genuinely pay money for that. It's so good.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I promise that's all from me with Tetris. I'm done. Thank you for listening.
So the first game that I've been playing is Famicom Detective Club, Emio the Smiling Man, colloquially known as Emio because that's a super long title otherwise. I know in episode 1 I talked a little bit about my experience playing the first game in the series, The Missing Heir. And I remember I was saying that I hope that they introduced some quality of life features to this modernized entry in the series, because the first 2 games felt a little bit like they played exactly how they would have played in the 80s. And I'm happy to report there are some nice little quality of life touches that I've noticed in playing Emio. For example, there is an option that you can do called think, which in previous games I guess you needed to think at certain interactions, but for this game, if you hit the think icon, it generally gives you a hint of what you should be doing next. So when in doubt, just hit think, and they sort of like are able to guide you that way. They also introduce like some sort of like orange highlight text every now and then, which kind of also prompts you about what you should be maybe inquiring about or looking into or doing, etc., etc. I'm currently a couple chapters in. If this game is about as long as the other games were, then I would say I'm currently almost at the halfway point. So reserving judgment for now. I'm liking it overall. I'm not like super hooked into it. I guess evidenced by the fact that it's a 12-ish hour game and I've had it in progress for close to 2 months now, I think. But I'm gonna see through to the end and let you know what I think of it after I finish it. Though there are some quality of life features that have been introduced, I will say that it does suffer a little bit from the same sort of, I guess, bordering on tedious gameplay that the first 2 games have, where you have to sort of exhaust the same dialogue option over and over again. One example in particular that comes to mind is there's a scene where you're in a taxi with a character who I find insufferable. And so what you have to do is there's 3 different dialogue options. So you have to exhaust dialogue option A, then exhaust dialogue option B, then exhaust dialogue option C, and then you have to think, and then do A again, do A, B, 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 C, 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 think, A, B, 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 C, 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 think, and it's just like, okay, this could have been streamlined, so you could have just made this a cutscene, essentially. I don't have to be like pressing the same prompt over and over and over again. So that's still a little bit of a gripe that I have, but otherwise, I didn't even explain what the story this time around is, but it's about Emio, who is a serial killer / urban legend, and his whole shtick is that he kills people and then he puts a paper bag over their head with a little creepy smiley face drawn on it. So you're investigating this story. And again, I mentioned this last episode, but if you remember, there was a sort of creepy horror game trailer that Nintendo dropped earlier this year, and everyone was like, what is that? What is Nintendo doing with the horror? This is the game that it was. So I still have yet to uncover the mysteries. I'm still investigating who Emio is and all that. But I'll keep you posted about that game as I progress through it. But yeah, that's one of the games that I've been playing. The other one is Outer Wilds, specifically the Echoes of the Eye DLC. Outer Wilds is currently the December game of the month for the video game book club. So I'm gonna not talk about this one this episode because I may or may not be talking about it in a future episode. A little bit of foreshadowing there.
Smooth.
And my third game, I'm also not going to say that much about, but it's Metaphor ReFantazio. Again, I'm still loving it. I'm still probably going to be my game of 2024 once I beat it. Yeah, I'm currently about 40-ish hours in, so I'm still pretty at the beginning, which is wild, but but you can be 40 hours into a game and still be like in the intro part. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it.
It's just getting started.
Yeah. It's still a long ways to go before I finish it, but yeah, that's another thing that I've been playing, and that's my playing recently. I'll pass it on to Roy next, since he also did not have a retired or pause for the previous section.
I'll just start off with Hearthstone on the basis that it's just the fact I kept playing it just like last month. There is nothing new to add, so like there, it existed.
I'm so excited.
Unfortunately, I have only played Tetris DX for about 20 minutes. So I don't have a ton to say about Tetris DX yet. I did get the little rocket, the lowest rocket in the marathon mode, so
that's all you want, yeah.
I got that in like my 3rd run. I mean, it seems very similar to Game Boy Tetris, although very different in some key ways. It seems like you can spin the blocks and like in the Game Boy Tetris, when you spin the blocks, it's still going down. In this Game Boy Color Tetris, they kind of delay a little bit when you spin. And that's, I know there's an exact term for it. I don't know if it's T-spin, so I don't want to say anything that's not true. It's not. That's what I thought. but you can delay with that. For some reason, I found myself repeatedly messing up my brain and thinking the block was one to the left or right than it was, and that ruined a few runs. I don't know why. It's Tetris. That aside from that, it's sure to be Tetris. I haven't tried any other modes.
It's Tetris.
It's Tetris. Better get on that B game mode, man.
I haven't tried B game mode. I just tried normal ass Tetris.
Damn.
Okay, what I will say that I can go through kind of quickly, but also is like I think the most random game on this list is Aragon for the Game Boy Advance.
Uh-huh.
The reason I started playing this has nothing to do with me even liking Aragon. The most I saw of Aragon was the terrible live action movie that is not supposed to be as good as the books. But there's a YouTuber, Matt McMuscles, and he played the Xbox 360 Aragon game.
Oh.
And it actually looked pretty good. So then I Googled that game and found out there's like 4 different versions of this game that were all released at the same time with the same name and all play completely differently.
That was that era when they had like movie tie-ins or book tie-ins of video games, and whatever platform it was on, it was a wildly different game.
Yes, right? Exactly. So like the 360 PS2 version is like a 3D action-y kind of game. You know, I would say action adventure, but there's not that much adventure. It's more of like a linear game. But the GBA version is a turn-based RPG instead. I played about an hour of it. It's very short, apparently, because how long to beat, I think, was like a 12-hour RPG or something, which is one of the reasons I started. I'm still in the tutorial like an hour in, so I don't know what the hell this game's going to even do if it's only like 12 hours long. It's weird, actually, too. It's interesting, but it's weird. The enemies are like 3D models, but like not Donkey Kong Country style, but like they have a weird look compared to like a normal 3D model. The combat is like you have like 2 different sword slashes, and like when it's your turn, you can choose like magic, sword slash, all this stuff. And the order you put your 2 different sword slashes creates different combo attacks that you like unlock. It's weird. I have not gone far enough to say that much about it, but even though I'm in the tutorial too, there's a lot of actual fighting, which is a bit unfortunate.
Is it?
When it's just a tutorial, and so you're just like killing everything, yeah, a little bit. Because this is one of them tutorials where it's really obvious 2 of the tutorial characters are not going to survive the tutorial, kind of thing. So it's like, I know these are just going to be like jobbers. Because like they don't learn any skills or anything. That's Aragon in the GBA. Pokemon Silver, I started a Nuzlocke. I'm not that far into it. I've only lost one Pokemon. Gen 2, boys, let's go.
Let's fucking go.
That's the one I started with.
Yes.
But started with Cyndaquil. I've beat Whitney. Kind of just running around training. I got a pincer at the bug catching contest, hoping to have that on my team.
Hell yeah.
Pincer cool.
Yes.
Not really sure what else to say.
But I have to ask, how did the Whitney fight go? Did you lose any mons to her?
I did, but it was in a way that was kind of annoying. So I used Slowpoke against her, and the Slowpoke had Mud Slap and Curse and all that stuff. And it died to I used Mud Slaps 3 times on the first Clefairy. It metronomed into Zap Cannon, hit with 3 Mud Slaps on it, and knocked out Slowpoke. That's like a 15 or 20% chance to hit, ignoring the fact that metronome has like a 1 in 256 chance or whatever to actually select the move. So come on. Fortunately, I was able to just kind of beat Whitney's Miltank with like Growl and having other Pokemon it couldn't do much against. It was grim. That's my only loss so far of a Pokemon.
But what a loss it was. Slowpoke rules.
Real. I've been playing a lot of Civilization 4 recently. I finished like 2 full games of it, kind of thing, and I'm like almost finished with a 3rd one. That's probably like 15 hours. I don't have anything new to say because I just talked about why it was like one of my favorite games last time, but I've been playing it. I've been playing Arc Knight, which means that's the gacha game on this list. It's one of the only ones I play, but it is a really, really, really good game.
A really good gacha game? No way.
It is really good. I would go so far as to say that it might be really up there of games I've played. I've kind of weighed it to an extent because it's a gacha. Although the fact they have like everything in the game probably like 8% of things I've never spent a dime does kind of help with that. Story is amazing, but I've also been playing it has a roguelike mode. and I like the gameplay enough. I play the roguelike mode. You know,
You know it's a good game when you Google the title and all you see is like anime girls and no like gameplay screenshots. That's all I'm getting.
it's a tower defense game, is what
Oh.
it is. It's like a puzzly tower defense game with RPG mechanics. It actually gets pretty complex too. I actually highly recommend it if you are interested in trying any kind of game like that. One of the only gacha games off the top of my head.
Anime girls are
Yeah.
are a symbol of quality to me, so I might try this.
I would also say it has extremely killer anime girl designs as well, I would know. And really good anime guys. I like Wino, I really like as a design. I could go into this far too long outside of what I was actually playing. So it might be good to stop before I go too far. But
Okay.
this is the kind of game I could see like this is like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 kind of game for me. It does start a bit
Damn.
slow, I'll say that kind of thing. I like Fate Grand Order, but I end up falling off that hard when I started playing this kind of thing. Because I think this is just kind of better.
Fair.
Well, you know, speaking of anime girls, here's one that I actually started playing because it got a really big update, which is Holocure, which is a Vampire Survivors style game with virtual YouTubers.
Oh
So,
gosh.
you know how that is.
Wait, like how does explain to me how this works? Is this like actual virtual YouTubers that like got their characters in the game or whatever?
Yes,
what-
it is a fan game, although it's a fan game that now has like
Oh.
official backing. And it uses all the virtual YouTuber, you know, the characters, the avatars and stuff like that.
I
And
see.
all the abilities are based on things that have happened, or there's, you know, the character's lore or stuff like that, which makes for an extremely eclectic mix as well. I think it ends up, in my opinion, making it very expansive compared to like Vampire Survivors.
Were you familiar with these with any of these VTubers beforehand, or is this all just like
Yes,
you're in for the gameplay?
I was familiar for like quite a while beforehand, kind of thing.
So you got your
I
favorite
would
characters.
Yes. Although it doesn't have all of them in, but yeah, it still has like it has Susei, it has Calliope Mori, it has, you know, those are like two off the top of my head that I rather like. They just at this point, like 2 weeks ago, I guess I should say, 3 weeks ago, something like that, released a very large update, and they added like there's like a Jump King platforming side game, there's a casino mode, there's a fishing mini game, there's a mining
gotta
mini
have that.
game, base building mini game. So they've got all this side stuff to go with the main like Vampire Survivors game.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's actually very fun. It's like most Survivors games, it's very mindless to an extent, but they do make a lot of more complex stages that are a bit less mindless kind of thing. It's like a great game like if you're listening to a podcast and you kind of just want to like play something but you don't want to commit to something, you know.
Great game to pair with our podcast, maybe.
Right.
Oh, true. We just gotta get our VTuber avatars in, and then we'll be really well paired.
Wait, which avatar though? Like who here? We're not VTubers yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
you're Roach.
Yeah.
Not yet.
We gotta get on there.
I mean, you could have a roach. There is like a roach girl VTuber.
No, hold on.
Hold on. The way Matt's eyes just
It's
lit
just
up.
lit up.
I need more information about this
I
later.
can't remember their name now.
Oh my god! You cannot tell me this and then not deliver.
Oh, I think it's Matara Khan.
I'm taking notes.
Wow.
I think that's them. There it is. There it is. The method to get mad into VTubers. So I started Live Alive, the remake version, not the
Live Alive?
Live Alive. That's
Is
right.
it though?
It is.
Or Live Alive. I just fucked it up again. So you might have to just live with me mispronouncing it.
You might have to
It
live
is-
alive with me saying live alive. I'll see myself out.
Live Alive. I started this like when it first came out. I forget the remake's what, 2 years old now? Something like that.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if I've explained this game at all before. I don't think I talked about, but it's basically a game that's 7 little mini JRPG stories, and you kind of work through each scenario. And stuff's gonna happen when you finish all the scenarios, kind of thing. But I won't go into that part. I completed like 3 or 4 of the little mini scenarios. There's like a Wild West scenario. You know, there's like a urban future scenario, feudal Japan. Imperial China, all that kind of stuff. There's one that's just Street Fighter. Like, it's just Street Fighter. I've had that on my back burner for so long. It's really easy to pick up and play because the scenarios are obviously not all JRPG length. A lot of them are short. Like one or two of them, they're probably like 30 minutes or an hour long kind of thing. I played the Far Future scenario.
That's my
probably about
favorite
2 or 3
one.
weeks ago. I would say it's either that or Near Future is my favorite one right now.
Oh, New
I would
Future, that's
say.
my least favorite.
All right. Far Future, you're a little robot guy in like a future spaceship. I'm not going to get into the whole thing because explaining the plot too much, considering it's a short scenario, will just spoil the entire thing. I really like the sprite work they did in this, remaking like the HC 2D kind of Octopath Traveler style, which I quite like. The scenario was really fun. There's a little sense of mystery to it. I am a huge sci-fi fan. I grew up watching Star Trek. I enjoy Star Wars. I've watched like some of the more obscure stuff too, but like Star Trek is a really big one. You know, I've watched Alien. I've watched The Thing.
Hell yeah.
You get the idea. But so I really enjoyed that scenario because there is a lot that it like takes and modifies or messes around with from sci-fi movies. It's very Alien, all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed watching them play around with that. Climax of that little section, which I'm not going to share again because of spoilers, is really good. I actually like how they mess around with one of the in-game mechanics. There's like a map system. You can turn the map system on and off. But usually it has like a marker to tell you where to go if you want to have it on for people who, get lost in RPGs and stuff. But because the last part of the mystery part is you have to discover where to go, the radar automatically turns off and won't work. And there's also a bit of a reason for that as well. So I thought that was fun. I was really impressed by that scenario. I've been enjoying the game overall, even if it's not one of my like all-time favorites or anything.
Yeah, I like the game a lot. It's a game that had been on my radar for a while, but I never got a chance to play it until the remake came out. But yeah, I think it's got a lot of charm. I really appreciate how different all the little vignettes are, both in terms of gameplay and in terms of story. Like, you've got some that have like virtually no combat, and you have others that are just like straight up combat, like the Street Fighter style one. Yeah, just like the way they make it very like a fresh experience for every story that you go into, I think is pretty cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, like the Wild West scenario. I mean, there's 2-3 fights in that entire scenario. It's much more about, a kind of puzzle trap aspect, the story kind of thing. And then, like you said, Street Fighter, that is all fights. It is truly street fighting. Yeah.
Also, the soundtrack.
Yes.
It's a banger of a soundtrack.
Yes.
Is that also Yoko Shimomura?
Oh, God, is it? I think so, but I don't actually know or remember right off the top of the head. It's the soundtrack that inspired Undertale. How could it be bad?
Wait, the Live Alive soundtrack inspired Undertale?
Yeah. So, you know how Megalovania is the big Sans Undertale song and all that?
Yeah.
A big boss song in this game is Megalomania, and that's what inspired Megalovania. It's one of the games that inspired a lot of the themes Undertale kind of was looking into. Along with Moon, a remixed RPG.
That I get, okay.
Oh, Moon has been on my backlog for ages.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's indeed Yoko Shimomura who did the soundtrack for this game. Yeah.
So I wasn't just wrong. That's good to know.
We love to hear it.
Well, that was the last game on my playing list.
It's not even actively playing, but the only thing that I got going on right now is a release called Tricky Towers on PC. Unsurprisingly, it's another block falling game. Very much Tetris-like. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Tetris without the rails.
Yeah. No, I get it. Actually, it's very clever. This is Tetris, but instead of like clearing lines and like getting rid of the stuff that's falling down, here your aim is to build actual towers and fighting with the physics, trying to, create something that doesn't like fall apart. And then there's like different game modes where you like, I don't know, race somebody else to get to a certain height, or like try to get as many blocks on a little island without it falling apart as possible. I'm really, so far, I only really have played this in multiplayer with a friend because we both like Tetris, and this was kind of an easy way to play some multiplayer Tetris, kinda. And it's a really cool thing, but I am still planning on actually like looking into the single player stuff because I believe there's a campaign. But yeah, that's really the only like
I feel like there probably
I
is.
think there is. I just haven't looked into it yet. But yeah, that's right now basically the only thing that I'm playing. Everything else I actually managed to finish off before this episode. Clearly.
This makes me think of two things. First off,
Yeah.
a Tetris game that's like multiplayer, but the way it works is like each block is controlled by like a different person. Like it goes one block, then the next person has to do the
Yeah.
next block, then back to the first one. That would be fun.
I'm not sure, but Tetris Effect might have something like that. It definitely has some interesting co-op stuff.
Interesting. Then the
Yeah.
other thing I was just gonna say, because this game title reminded me, did anybody else play Yahoo Towers ever?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Never have.
It was back when Yahoo had actual games on their thing, and it was kind of Tetris with power-ups.
I've never used Yahoo, but clearly I missed out.
No, I don't remember this at all. That looks fun though.
It is. It was great. It was kind of like a Tetris Battle Royale game before Tetris Battle Royale.
What's with the letters? Are you supposed to spell?
It spells Yahoo.
Oh my god.
And you get power-ups if you spell it out. I think, if I'm talking
What?
What?
Okay.
It's sick. It was a sick game, and it's too bad that's just like gone forever.
But the pieces only had like 3 blocks each. Am I seeing this right? This is very
I believe
strange.
so.
Very unorthodox. I
Embarrassing.
cannot agree with this.
I guess I can say that I'm considered playing this game. I'm not a Dragon Age person, and I do like character creators. So the Dragon Age Veilguard came out with their character creator, and I played that enough to make like 3 characters. But Diallo, I did watch your Twitch stream, and you were much better at creating characters than I am.
Yeah, I've also only played the character creator for this game. I have a 5-hour playtime currently, and it's purely spent on the character creator. Like Leah was mentioning, I have this tradition on my channel where I recreate Lisa Rinna from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and various video game character creators. And so when I saw the character creator for Dragon Age, the
God.
Veilguard, I was like, time for another round of let's make Lisa Rinna.
My next one is Tiny Bookshop demo, which at the time I had just gotten into downloading every demo of like retail stores. I don't remember what got me into. I think it was Supermarket Simulator or something like that, where I was like, what if there's like a bookshop? What if there's like a video game store? And like I downloaded like a whole bunch of these demos. Tiny Bookshop though is interesting in that the books that you're selling there's like a little story to it, but like the books that you're selling are real books.
Huh?
And they ask you for like recommendations. Like the characters will be like, oh, I'm looking for something that's, that has like a female in it and, isn't that long and it's like a little sad or whatever. And you have to like go through it. I'm like, I haven't read half these books. I was like, I assume this is maybe up your alley. I don't know. So, I think the demo was
Do
like
your
the
homework.
first 2 like places that you can put your shop. But yeah, it was kind of
That's so
cool, but I don't
cool.
know
What
that
the
I'm going
fuck?
to play the full game. I wish that the demo had been longer. So I guess that means that I would play the game, but I don't know if I'd have to see like how exactly long the game is. I can't imagine it's going to be like more than 8 hours. If it is, then I don't know what possibly could happen in this game that's going to make it longer than that. So
It sounds like a game that is truly for people very immersed in books. That's for sure.
I'm a fan of books, but I don't know that I read and I play video games. I don't know that I need to read in order to finish a game. That's what I felt like after finishing the demo. I was like, oh, I feel like I should read all of these classics and find out some of these books so that way I can better play this game in the future. And I was like, that seems like, as much as there are books in it that I want to read myself, I was like, that seems like a lot of work just to finish this one game. So we'll see, exactly how that goes. The next game is Boomerang X, which I have been having so much fun with. And it's exactly the kind of game that I thought Doom Eternal was going to be, where it's just chaos and just running around this arena. And like, I don't even know what I think like you start off as like shipwrecked on an island, and it just so happens that there's all these arenas that you just have to fight all these monsters or whatever. But each one is like, you have to get like
arena
four of there's special symbols on some of them where it's like you have to get 4 enemies with this symbol on it in order to complete the arena or whatever. And then there's like 5 rounds, or I think it's like 7 rounds or whatever of each arena. There's like different rounds to get through. And I'm like halfway through, I want to say, compared to how long to beat says how long the game is. But I'm really, I think I found this recommended on some site that was talking about very short games. And I almost didn't buy it because it just looked slop actually, but I'm really enjoying it. So
Whoa.
I was like, this doesn't look like there's any like substance to it. I don't care if it's just gonna be like a bullet hell game or whatever, but it's actually exactly what I needed at the time I started playing it, so I've been enjoying that. The other one I've come back to is Red Dead Online, which after November, from November to December, the whole map gets covered in snow. And so like you have to have like winter gear or whatever just to play on every part of the map because it's always cold. But like that's when the community really gets back into this because it's basically dead. They're not giving like any more updates to it anymore. Rockstar only cares about GTA 5. So basically anybody who's playing Red Dead is just like playing on their own, doing whatever. And if you 100% online, there's nothing else that's coming in the future for you. So basically the only thing that people get excited about is the one thing that changes, and that's that the snow comes in November. So like everybody plays the Halloween, they update the maps for Halloween. So everybody jumps on to play those for the first time that year. And then everybody pisses off for a while. And then everybody plays for snow. And then when snow goes away, you play like just to be like, oh my God, the map doesn't have snow. And then you don't see anybody until October again. So
Important question here. Can you have a snowball fight?
I don't believe so. But there's a lot of like the horses turn into reindeer. On the Call to Arms maps, they have like little Easter eggs here and there, and there's like different power-ups on different part of all the different special events that you can play with people online. They do like little teasers, like there's like Christmas lights and stuff like that all over the maps. So that's fun.
Oh gosh, okay.
So yeah, I gotta jump back in.
They gotta bring out those snowboards for the cowboys.
Yeah, no snowboards. They should have had some sleds, but honestly, there's a lot in the game that everybody, like every once in a while, we'll just be playing and be like, man, I wish we had gotten this. I wish we had gotten that. So there's quite a lot of potential that Rockstar just didn't see in this game. So yeah, I'm going to jump in soon just to enjoy the snow before it goes away again. But yeah, then the next one I have on my list is Bus Simulator 21, which was free on Epic.
Yes.
So it's not the only reason. I do enjoy these simulator public transit games, but this one was free. So I was like, I might as well jump into it right now.
Don't wait, play today.
Then we realized that Bus Simulator and Tram Simulator Urban Transit is using the exact same map. While I was watching Matt stream Tram Simulator, I was also playing Bus Simulator and realizing we were complaining about the same parts of the map.
And I have questions now. I mean, we've already talked like off mic that we have like seen, because it's the same map, we have seen leftovers, because my Tram Simulator game came later. It was originally a DLC for Bus Simulator, and then only later became its own release. And there are remnants, like which we found out there's like a bus training ground that is actually interactable in your Bus Simulator, but in mine it's just like hidden in a parking lot and like unusable assets, but it's still there for some reason. And I have other questions like that, because I've noticed, for example, and maybe you can answer them, maybe not, on the map there are like camera symbols strewn throughout, and they have no effect or feature in Tram Simulator. Is this also something?
I don't think I've seen those.
Bus Simulator?
On the poles or something?
I've seen it only on the map. Is there speeding? There's speeding in Bus Simulator, probably, right? Do you have to watch out for like speeding cameras or something? That's my theory.
I'm assuming that's what it is. Maybe. Most of the time, people just don't look when they're crossing the road.
Yeah, those NPCs are brain dead. Yeah.
So there was a lot of that where I was just like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm signaling that I'm leaving, and people just like bust out right in front of the bus. So and it'll be like, you hit a pedestrian, and I'm like, who does this? Like, So now most of the time I just like sit there at the stop, and I'm like, is everyone gone? Now I can leave, but yeah, that
in Tram Simulator though, you had so much money that none of these accidents mattered, because you get like a money penalty, right? But in my playthrough, I had so much money, none of it mattered. I could do whatever I want. Is that similar in Bus Simulator? Yeah, okay. I
Well,
figured.
like you get penalized for
It's
like
very
if
forgiving, this
you
game.
run a red light, or sometimes when I'm turning, they have like those accordion buses, and I'm supposed to turn with this accordion bus. So sometimes I go into the wrong lane, and they're like, "You're running out. You're penalized because you're on the wrong side of the road." And I was like, "Bro, I am still turning. Like, let me get into my lane."
This is why I really feel like the Tram Simulator is like the easy mode, because being on the rails, like you can't make those mistakes. It's kind of funny. One more question I need to ask though. The little island in the middle of the map, which is not accessible by tram because there are no like tram lines going there. I was able to like visit it by foot and explore it. There is what I assume is an Easter egg, like a weird yellow school bus with a weird cartoon face on it. Is that thing in the Bus Simulator as well? Because it seems really strange.
I'm not sure about. I have seen it myself too, but the island is not made for long buses. So every time that I have to do a route through there, I always have to take the smallest bus possible, because like it's like a highway going through this island, and then it just cuts off into like this retreat center. And I'm like, who can make this turn on a bus? So I hate that island, and anytime I have to deal with that island, it's the worst. But there's also like some weird,
actually really interesting.
There's some weird storyline about businesses that we have to like. I don't know if you have like tram wraps for like I know you have the Pride bus thing.
Yeah.
But like, did you also have like the influencer wraps or whatever? Because like for the buses, there was like one point where they were like, we need to make money. We need to like have like sponsors or whatever. So there's like sponsor wraps for the buses now. And like if your bus has that on, you get extra money because they're sponsoring the bus. So I think that's what the school buses might have to do with. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but because there's a lot of different like customizations you can do for the buses that I was like, there's no reason for these story-wise yet, but I know that they're gonna pull some BS later down the line.
I think in the Tram Simulator you had one like quest line where it made you put on a specific wrap around the vehicle, but I figured it was just like a tutorial thing to tell you, hey, this is something you can do. It never was relevant after that, ever. I don't remember.
Yeah, because I saw that there were like so many, but I was like, who are these different influencers? I have no idea. So I was like, I don't know where we're getting our money from if I just slap them on all my buses.
Because influencers are sponsoring public transport.
Because that's how that works, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Good That's a dystopian future right there.
Yeah, so
yeah, I think there's much more to Bus Simulator.
Yeah, I think I'm only like 2-3 hours into it, and I think it's like a 12-hour game. So very slowly, I will get through all that there is.
Yeah, you better finish it
in the world of public transit in 2021.
Yeah.
And the last game that I've been playing is Infinity Nikki. It's so interesting because I just saw a reel recently where there was like a couple playing, and they were like, the girl was playing Red Dead Online, and then he was playing Infinity Nikki, and I was like, I am playing both of these games actually. I'm both sides of this couple.
I am all.
You just make them for real.
I actually am curious about this game myself.
I'm currently still just in the tutorial, but I have it. It's wild because it's the first game where I can play it on my phone and also my PC. So like I've been enjoying the fact that like if I don't have time during my day to play it, I can just play it as I'm falling asleep. So, but it's fun because it's basically a dress-up game meets Breath of the Wild. So the fact that it's basically all the like silly little things that I enjoy in a game at once. There's a lot of power-ups to the different sorts of outfits, and there's so many outfits that I don't know if I'm going to understand properly how to max out my stats when I need them. So
max out that drip.
And also there's like some gacha element that somebody on some Discord somewhere was telling me that that you don't technically have to pay for, but I feel like down the line it's going to be a point where if you're not paying for this game, you're losing. So we'll see how that works out, because mostly at that time I just peace out of games. So we'll see if that drags it down eventually, or if I'm still playing in a year, even much less 5 or so. So
because you said Breath of the Wild, but I was thinking Genshin.
Yeah,
Impact.
that's also the other one that people were like, "Oh, this is." The only reason I say Breath of the Wild is apparently one of the people that was working on Breath of the Wild worked on this game, so that's why they took Nikki out of the dress up thing, and they were like, "Oh, since this is another thing that we have experience in, we can make it into like an open world thing."
I think it's time for us to move on to our discussion topic. We are gonna be talking about the recent itchmas event on the How Long to Beat forums. In case you, dear audience, are not aware, the itchmas event is an offshoot of the regular Game of the Month event. During itchmas, we collect nominations of 3 indie games released on the website itch.io, and after a voting period, we are having usually 12 games revealed in the first 12 days of December, which we are communally playing and then talking about. This year, it ended up being 14 games due to some voting ties. And here's my question to you all. Who here has actually played all of them? I have played all of them. Who else?
No.
I've played 13.
I played about, I think, 8.
I retired 2 of them.
That's close enough.
But not all.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I played 3.
Yeah.
So the game is Arcane Beak, which at first I thought was Arcane Break, and then I realized that no, it's Beak. It is a small scale, a shooter shmuppy kind of game. Little arena shooter, I guess you could say, top down.
Yeah, twin stick shooter.
Twin stick, that's the word I'm looking for and can't remember.
By Roger Goulart, by the way, I would like to mention the developers for these.
And music by Antimus, for what that's worth. But yeah, it's just like a cute little twin stick shooter. It's like, what was it, like 5 stages around there, I want to say?
4.
Yeah, 4. Leah's right.
That's right then. So this game kind of had the feeling, and one of the things that sometimes I feel like I struggle with when I do itchmas games, which is, it's a nice little shooter. As somebody who's like, I don't play a lot of twin stick shooters, but I play a lot of shmup kind of thing. It wasn't not a lot of shmup, enough shmup, I should say, whatever.
Enough.
It was kind of easy, I guess, what I felt. But I feel like the thing with me is that it fell into a zone a lot of itch games do, where it's difficult for me to talk about, I feel like. Because, it was fun enough, but it doesn't really explore its concepts much. But at the same time, it's like a short, free game, so you wouldn't expect it to. So I feel like I end up struggling to say much more than, it was cute, had a nice art style.
Fine.
It's fine kind of thing. And I feel like I struggle a lot when I try to talk about some of these itch games. And I kind of wonder if anybody else has that happen to them.
I think a little bit of context for the listeners. One thing to keep in mind, this is true for this game and a couple other games in the list, is that a lot of them are created as a result of video game jams. Yeah, so, and if you're not familiar, a video game jam is like where you're with a group of people, or maybe working solo, but you have a limited time frame, usually like a couple days or a weekend or so, to create a video game about a certain topic. So that sort of like contextualizes like the limited scope that a lot of them have.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about that, then why won't let's actually talk about what this was, because this was, like I said, made for a game jam, and the theming was racing and escape. And this game being a twin stick shooter where you escape different rooms by killing enough enemies, as well as racing against a ticking clock element. I mean, I guess, the elements were well implemented. And I agree that this looked good. I think the sprite work is super good, actually. I really liked it.
I did really like the look.
And I guess with these small indie games, that does a lot, the presentation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the sprite work I was very impressed with.
I do agree, though, that I thought this game was easy as well. I died once because I was too slow, but I never had, needed to look at my health. That's that sort of thing, which is not what I expected.
I died a time, honestly.
Yeah, seems like others struggled, though.
I was one of the people who did not beat the game. So I think I did 3 attempts. On my first attempt, I think my first death was on stage 3 or something. And then I died on stage 4 once. I think the rhinos got me. I couldn't stand the rhinos. I hated them. And then on my third attempt, I ended up. It turned out that I had enough. I had the portal open, but I didn't run to through the entrance in time, and I was like, oh man, that was on me. I could have done
Makes
that.
sense.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just sort of like lost steam and gave up.
Yeah, around stage
Right.
2 is where I was reminded that there is a time limit.
Yeah.
And then around stage 3 again, and then on
Yeah.
my next attempt, I was able to get all the way through to.
A lot of it's kind of just circle strafing and trying to pick up the one multi-shot
Yep.
power up, basically.
Yeah,
Sometimes you get close, like on the Rhino,
Yeah.
with the multi-shot, you just kind of one-shot it.
Yeah.
I will say one interesting thing that happened to me. I wasn't sure if this was a bug or if this is just how the game works, but I had music for stage 1, and then for the stages after that, I didn't have any music. Was that true for everyone else, or?
I think I had music whole way through.
I think I had music the whole way through, but I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't remember.
No, I definitely
I think
had.
it did
Yeah.
cut out on me at one point, but when I reloaded it,
And
it
here's
was
the other
fine.
question: which control scheme did you use?
Mouse and keyboard. Like there was no question
Yeah,
for me.
same here.
Yeah, I used mouse and keyboard too, but I was curious if anyone didn't.
Yeah,
Any losers that didn't.
Mm.
Any nerds. Okay, so
It's a
it seems
losers
like
control scheme for losers.
seems like general consensus was rather positive on this one. The second day was a completely different kind of game. This is PE Noir, released by a developer called Picogram, which was a point-and-click noir crime story based in an elementary school, I believe.
Yes.
I thought this was pretty. This was
Yes.
pretty good, except for one piece of moon logic, or like half moon logic, which threw me off.
I think I know exactly the piece that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
to not be like spoilery or whatever. It has to do with the frying thingy that I didn't get. I don't know if that's the same for others. Generally, though, pretty cute. I thought pretty charming. Although good writing for the most
writing.
part, because the ending was fucking harsh and really did not vibe
Yeah.
with me. If we wanna talk about that one, I'm really curious. I guess Leah, we are both feeling similarly. I'm curious about the others. Wait, who here played it?
I played it. This is one of the favorite ones that I played for itchmas. Yeah, I agree with what you said about how it was very charming.
Yeah.
I really was impressed with
Yep.
the writing and also the artwork. I thought was very well done. Or the
To
pixel
it,
art.
I just didn't get to it in time for the podcast. I do want to say really quick, and then I'll let you guys kind of go off and talk about your stuff, that the whole point and click adventure elementary school thing reminded me of a show I watched as a kid called Fillmore, which had like a
Yes.
another Fillmore knower.
Fuck
Hell
yeah.
yeah, that show was
Yes.
great. Anyway,
It's so good. Yeah.
anyway,
I was thinking about that one as well when this came up.
sick.
Okay, so since Roy hasn't played this, I don't want to like get into
I don't
details
care.
about
I
the
don't
ending.
care.
Although I don't think it matters much anyway, because in the end, you as the hall monitor character do lift the the mystery about the criminal that did something, blah blah.
Should we say what the crime is that you're investigating for this game? Because I think it's kind of
The
funny.
character was just trying to get out of PE, right?
Exactly, yeah. and so you're sent by the principal to investigate, like, is his excuse fraudulent,
Legit.
or is he?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Like, it ends with you helping the PE avoiding students to get his comeuppance and be fully punished and whatever. It's pretty grim, the last panel, I thought, how it's written. But here's the thing. The main character that you play, the hall monitor, is only a hall monitor to get out of PE themselves. So, fuck off. That really pissed me off because they're really like getting all over this poor kid just trying to get out of this poor shitty situation they are in, being PE, and the privileged hall monitor is just like, oh, you're evil, I'm good.
Sounds
Fuck
like
off.
a pretty good cop social commentary to me.
Yes.
I was just about to say, it feels like a political commentary where the oppressor or the oppressed becomes the oppressor.
I'm saying you, ACAB includes hall monitors.
The kid trying to
Right.
get out of PE is like a nerd. He probably has asthma. He's probably
Fuck.
like half dead during PE. Like he probably has like a reason not to be there.
Yes.
So-
But I'm not even sure it was like an intentional commentary. It didn't
Oh,
strike me
gosh.
as such, at least.
I mean, to be fair, you could also just argue that does fit the noir style.
I guess so, but like it was really tonally, like it was a nasty
Yeah.
shift. Otherwise, this game is nice though. So there
Just
you
kind of
go.
fumbles a bit at the end, potentially.
It was.
Honestly, if anything, hearing about the ending makes me interesting to try it now.
And it's pretty short too, so if you're interested in checking it out.
No, yeah, it's a decent time. Yeah. The next game, Lodge, I doubt that anybody beat this under 10 minutes. Lodge, made by a user called Colorbomb. This is an escape room game, a pretty classic like escape room game where you are, I don't know, stuck in a little lodge on like a weird little cliffside island or whatever, solving some puzzles. Apparently the developer made a bunch of escape room games before, some of them with really interesting visual styles. This one seemed a bit more basic to me. I was not looking forward to it, but I actually ended up really, really liking it. And like, it was one of the stronger escape room games I played.
Is
in my
it like
times.
a game with any spookiness to it, or is it just like a pure escape room game?
No,
That's what I thought.
Nice.
pure escape room,
That's what I thought. I was curious.
but pretty good puzzles, pretty clever stuff.
The ending is interesting, but I won't comment. I won't spoil it. This is the favorite itches game this year that I played. I'm a sucker for escape rooms. I was part of an escape room club at one of my previous companies, so put me in an escape room, I'm happy. So I like this one a lot. It's hard to talk about it though, because it's like, as an escape room, it's like, well, there are puzzles that you do. You can't really talk about them without spoiling them.
Yeah, because if you say the puzzles, then it's just like they've solved the puzzles for the viewer.
And that's really what I was, because I didn't vote for this when the voting was up, because I looked at this and looked like a very bland game. And I don't think we can sell it any better, but it just has really satisfying puzzles for the most part. And it's pretty polished in like in the way it controls. There are much rougher escape room games out there. I really recommend this one.
Yeah. My only issue is the ending just
Sure, I know I was fine with that.
so, but other than that, it was pretty solid, I would say.
I haven't played any other games with this developer, so I wasn't sure if the ending tied into their other works.
Yeah,
but I would be interested in playing other stuff they've made based on how much I enjoyed Lodge.
Doubt there's a connection to other games because they all have wildly different like
Gotcha.
settings and visual styles. Seems like cool stuff though.
Dislodge your expectations for an itchmas game. Even if it looks a bit bland, you might be surprised.
Exactly. All right. Moving on to one of my most anticipated ones in this. This is Pipe. Although really the actual name is just a symbol of a straight line. And it's developed by a person named Tak, T-A-K, which is one of my personal favorite indie devs on itch.io. They got a whole bunch of really strange, interesting, unique, tiny little games on there. And Pipe is one of them, where you control a literal like bar, a pipe flying through. Yeah, flying through like narrow corners of some, I don't know, science place, whatever, trying to escape as quick as possible and maybe collecting a couple collectibles on the way. Like the main interest here is like the somewhat original control scheme of the thing that you're controlling. The pipe and the gorgeous like sprite art. I love how this looks.
This is one of the 3 games I played, and I did beat it, I will say.
Yeah.
Did you get all the collectibles?
I got all the collectibles.
Hell yeah.
I would say this game was pretty, and the control scheme was interesting, but it did feel a little...
Don't you dare.
I wish that it did more with the control scheme, basically. I felt like a lot of the times I could just kind of hold the acceleration and it didn't matter. There was only really 1 or 2 points it felt like not just holding and going didn't work out. And usually all I had to do was like feather it like it was a racing game or something. I felt like there could have been not like a ton more, because it's a short game. I'm not asking for like a 3-hour platforming adventure or whatever, but just like one room that maybe used the mechanics a bit differently would have been interesting or something.
I also feel like the enemies or whatever had no consequence.
They mostly just annoyed you.
I mean, yeah, that's because it's like there's a speed run aspect, so that's really all that there is in terms of mastering the controls. It's supposed to be fast.
Yeah, I played this one as well, but I bounced off it pretty hard. Just not so much my
Don't
type
like
of game.
laying pipe.
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
But yeah, just like one
All right.
room with a collectible where like I don't know, you have to like go up really high and really adjust yourself as you fall down or something because you have like the stop and start kind of feel with it or something like that. I don't know. But just like one more room with a collectible that did something a bit different would have satisfied me a bit more.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a longer version of this, but with more stuff.
Well, I was thinking like I tried to keep the scope when I say longer really small because I'm not like trying to say like, oh, you got to make a full game per se.
Well, I nominate both of those, so it's a win-win for me either
You
way.
can't lose.
Yeah. The next game is titled What Never Was, posted or created by a user named Eki Halgreen, which I think is just like the actual name. What Never Was is another sort of escape room game. It's a puzzle game, a story-driven one, and I don't think this was very good.
I didn't get to play this one because I couldn't get it to work on either of my computers. I tried it on my Mac and on my PC, and it would not run on either for some reason.
This was one of the ones I was less interested in, even if I played all of them.
Yeah, I played it. It was. I think the issue with this one is it came after Lodge.
Yeah.
If I had played this before Lodge, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But the puzzles were just kind of there versus like what I got out of Lodge.
The earlier one was really just lodged in your brain.
Yes.
The thing with What Never Was is also that it's clearly like supposed to be a prologue for a bigger thing.
Yeah.
It itself
For
only
a
has
game
like,
that never was.
Right, yeah. It itself only has like 3 major puzzles, and I would argue that one is like quicker solved by brute forcing than actually thinking about it, and another is barely a puzzle because it actually just tells you the solution. So not very strong in that regard. There's a lot of story and there are a lot of lore with the characters, but you have to actually care. And yeah, the actual full game that was supposed to precede this has not been released yet, and it's been years. But apparently, it was fully on its way to development. There is a Steam page with like coming soon, whatever. And it got like a sponsoring from like Epic Games at some point in one of their little programs for indie developers, but nothing ever happened. And by now, when you look up the developer, they are getting their Disney cash working on like Star Wars games. So
really,
I really doubt they are making any more of this. I think they're like a story lead or quest lead on some recent big Star Wars game, something.
that's
like
kind of
that.
wild to go from like an itch game to doing Star Wars story game stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what else they did in the background, right? This is
That's
just
true.
all we know. But yeah, this was rather weak. It wasn't terrible. It was
just weaker compared to the other ones, kind of thing.
that for sure. It
Mhm.
wasn't like a full experience. Following that, with getting a full meal in the game called Creature Packets, developed by
I see
a
what you did
person
there.
called Ken Forrest. Creature Packets has you in a sort of fast food environment, cooking up little creatures.
Like literally cooking them up. You open up little packets and then you put them in a blender and
Yeah.
You start
Surprise,
with
a toxic
like
creature or
one of
something.
those critters and you learn to mix them up to make more. That's basically the gist of the gameplay as you fulfill
It's
orders.
basically Creepy Crawlers, the easy bake oven for dudes from the 90s.
Fuck yeah, dude. And this was also done for not a game jam, but one of those Ludum Dare things, made in 72 hours with the theme Tiny Creatures. So I guess they hit that.
I mean, they sure did. There are many creatures.
Highlight of this is probably the presentation, right? The vibe, the atmosphere, and the visual presentation.
Yeah.
Gameplay is meh. It's fine.
The atmosphere and like the concept in general, the fact that you're working in like a rest or some fast food joint or whatever, where you're making orders of
Yeah.
people are ordering batches of little creatures. It's like I don't understand what this world is that we're living in. It seems very disturbing.
Yeah.
Your in-game character is a bit disturbed by it as well. But yeah, it's got kind of that eerie atmosphere and also a little bit of cute little lo-fi graphicsness to it as well. Blend of creepy and cute.
This was one of the ones that I would definitely play more of. I could play a game like this for like 8 hours maybe. If there was lore and a story to it or whatever, I could have easily... I thought it was going to be much longer than that, and when it was over, I was kind of sad. So I'm going to have to check out their other games. I think I have played a few of their games just on my own. Do like a deep dive on this developer afterwards.
Oh yeah, they got...
It's like tagged dark and horror, but it doesn't really sound like it's all that dark or horror-y per se. Maybe more like weird.
It's dark.
Yeah, it's mostly the atmosphere. Yeah.
It's weird. Matt, I think I agree with you in that the gameplay felt a little bit meh to me. Because like once you've done one round, basically, it feels like it's presented kind of like puzzles, but there's not really any puzzle to give you the instructions for how to make every recipe. So once you've done it once, you pretty much know how to do it for every subsequent round.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a limitation of just like the time frame in which it was developed. I think if they were to make a more expanded version where they introduce like kind of like more puzzly mechanics, that could be kind of fun. But as it stands now,
you're literally just following instructions, basically. So again, presentation carries most of the... Then we're off to a little game called Rental, developed by somebody named Smardo Club. Pretty good name.
Very Smardo.
Rental is a not survival horror, but it's a horror game with Animal Crossing inspired visuals where you explore like a vacation home kind of thing.
Yeah, beach house.
I'm gonna like if y'all played it, I'm gonna let you go first.
I have not.
Oh,
so I played it, but I didn't finish it because I think it bugged out on me. Yeah, I got to this one point. All right, Leah, you can talk about it first, and I can talk about where I got stopped.
It's Animal Crossing if it was set in Silent Hill and the plot line is Spirited Away.
Spirited Away.
Yeah, it's very... You're basically a little bunny, and they're on at a vacation home with their family, and she goes into the house, and then you're trying to figure out what's wrong with the house, and then it just becomes like a collectible game where you just have to pick up the things that they tell you to pick up, and then it's over.
Yeah.
I feel like there could have been more to the second half of the game, but once you found the collectibles, what you're supposed to do with the collectibles, maybe there could have been more. It would have been nice to have a list of the collectibles instead of just clicking at stuff until like I figured out that this was something I could pick up and I wasn't actually going circles in the rooms by accident. Yeah, I wish that there was more to the story of what they were doing on vacation, what happens after. The second half just felt like completely a different sort of game where like I wasn't sure if I had broken my game also at that point. And then I did get out of the maze and then I still felt like I was stuck.
I will echo the desire for an item list because at the very beginning of the game, there's an NPC who tells you, okay, collect like XYZ, this long list of things to collect. And I was like, surely you'll be able to refer to this list in game again at some point. That is sadly not the case. So I walked through the house like I felt that I was pretty thorough on my exploration, and I clicked like everything that looked interactable, and I felt like I got to the point where I picked up everything that he asked me to get, but because there was no in-game list, I wasn't able to confirm that. And then also, on top of that, the camera in this game was a little bit jarring when it was working. Like, it's kind of does the fixed camera angle thing that like the retro Resident Evil games do. So when you walk into one room, like you might be at a wildly different angle, and then if you like are pressing the same button you had pressed before, like you're going in kind of the wrong direction. So it was jarring when it worked properly, but then the camera stopped working for me after I thought that I'd gotten all the collectibles, and I was sort of like looping through the house again to see if maybe I missed something, but the camera was not working, so it was kind of giving me this sort of like overhead view of the entire house, so I couldn't see into any of the actual rooms, and I couldn't see where my character was. And I was like, well, this is just...
Yeah, that did also happen to me.
Now I'm kind of stuck here.
I don't think I had that.
And I can't seem to progress.
People seem to have liked this quite a lot. I feel like there was a lot of positive reception of this on the forums. I did not care for this at all.
I really like the presentation.
I feel like that's a lot of itch games are like, oh, I like the presentation.
Yeah, but the gameplay itself, it literally, like, it reminded... I feel like, really, if the presentation wasn't there, this would be nothing else but one of those 2010s horror games where you just collect items. There was nothing else, nothing different from that. And
Yeah,
it's like how you... To be fair, to be clear, this was another Game Jam game, apparently 2 weeks, and the theme was 32-bit games, a very general theme.
One thing I would say is, from the sound of things, if you do decide to play this game, take a screenshot of the guy who gives you the link so that you can just refer to it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it left me wondering, like,
Right.
am I missing
Yeah.
something, or like, is my progression bugged?
Yeah, I was looking for the last item as well.
And then I thought I could go back to him, and then he wasn't
Nope.
there. I guess I'm gonna have to go on my
Yeah,
shitty
no,
memory
no.
from now on.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we are all pretty underwhelmed by this one. Unlike the next one, which I'm sure we all loved if we played it, because up next is Nightmare Card, formerly known as Bloodborne Card, created by the amazing LW Media, though I think they're more known as somebody else. Bunliv, that's their like more popular username online. Yeah, Nightmare Card is, for those who don't know, this was originally spawned from like a meme joke idea as a card racing game based on based on Bloodborne. Of course, like already said, there was an actual like cease and desist, like some actual legal action, so this was renamed Nightmare Card with all the actual Bloodborne references taken out, but it was still finished and is even on Steam available for free, and it's one of the most like feature complete full packages when it comes to free indie games that I've ever seen. It's such a good single player campaign to just go through, even if you have no idea what the fuck Bloodborne is. I'd never played Bloodborne, doesn't matter. It's just a really, really unique horror racing game.
There are not many horror racing games, just like in general, I would say.
Yeah.
Skip this one for now because I'm actually in the middle of Bloodborne and I don't want to risk any potential spoilers. But it's been on my radar for a while, and I'm looking forward to when I finally finish Bloodborne to playing this one.
I played it, but this was one of the ones that I retired because I got stuck in one of the like activity levels where I don't like when cart games don't explain their rules. Like my base for cart games is Mario Kart. So
but that's your
anytime
problem.
that anything is beyond anything beyond Mario Kart's rules, I'm going to be very confused about. So like it takes me a while to figure out which power up equals whatever it is in Mario Kart and like what the battle arena's objective is or whatever. So like around the second battle arena one, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's a good game and I enjoyed the actual racing parts of it, but just any of the ones that you like the battle arenas, I was just like lost in. So it is one of the more complete games that we had in itchmas. So I was pretty impressed by that. I don't know like how big of a developer they are, but it's nice when we get, after a bunch of like these very shorter ones to find like a game that should be available for sale because it's obviously such a complete game.
Yeah.
And a lot of passion and time went into it.
This one genuinely, it would like deserve a little price tag. I agree there.
Yeah.
I would say
I would say for this one, I didn't play it, but I really want to play it. It's one I will come to. I just didn't have time for it. I gotta agree, one thing I do find appealing about this one is the fact that it feels more like a short form game, but more feature complete than more like a demo teaser kind of game. It's nice to have some of those in an itchmas,
That's definitely it. Yeah. No, out of all of these itchmas games, this is definitely one of the strongest recommendations and one of the most complete experiences for sure. And it stands as like average times like around 2 hours, so you have a full game.
I mean,
on
a lot of games that are like 2 hours. That's gonna be something that you're gonna spend at least like $9.99 on or some.
Sure. Well, the next one won't take you 2 hours. This one is called The World Had Been Sad Since Tuesday, and it was made and posted by a person named Fred Bednarski. This one is a game made with the engine Bitsy, which is a pretty limited engine, and it is apparently based on a short story by an author named Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The short story being titled A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. And I haven't read the short story, but I'm assuming this is a fairly straight retelling with a light interactive element.
This was one of the games, almost from the title alone, but also just seeing a little bit, that I was most interested in. So I'm definitely gonna play it.
Honestly, anybody else got thoughts on this before I continue?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was was an interesting. I haven't read the short story, although I've had it in this tab for like 2 weeks. But yeah, I thought it was not much of a game.
Yeah.
But the plot intrigued me enough that I do want to read the short story. So I guess in that sense, if I know sometimes people just make a project just because they want to like highlight something that they wanted other people to see. So I don't know how many people are playing this game and are interested in the short story, but as somebody who's like written stuff before just to get people to notice like a certain aspect of things, I kind of appreciated that. But the game itself, it kind of didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, my thoughts are pretty similar. If we're judging it just on its merits as a game, I felt that it was kind of lacking. But I thought the artwork was pretty nice. It definitely piqued my interest in reading the short story, which I haven't done yet, but I've been wanting to read a lot more of like magical realism, Latin American literature. So
yeah.
This is, I guess, kind of like renewed that interest.
For full info, this was also made for a jam, specifically a jam for this game engine, and the theme was Ghost.
Okay, I don't know if it pulled that off.
Yeah, it's questionable. I also do think it struck me as well as more of a personal project of somebody who likes something a lot and wanted to rework that in a different way. Which is, respectable and all good. But as an experience for somebody who is not familiar, I agree, this wasn't really much of an experience. I do think, not having read the short story, I have a feeling this light interactive version is leaving out a lot of the actual interesting bits. This is just a theory, but this is what it feels like. Did Jarl go through the efforts to get true good ending or whatever? Because there is something that you could get for getting all the collectibles strewn around the map. That was like the only thing that you could really do.
Oh.
I didn't know that existed, so I did not.
I did get all the collectibles, so I don't know what.
I think the difference is just a little bit of more dialogue. So
okay,
it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I assumed that the feathers were going to do something, so I went around and I collected all the damn feathers that there were.
Just gave a bit of dialogue. Yeah, I guess actually for Roy, if you're still interested in this, kind of feel like it might be good to read the short story first. I feel like you would probably get more out of this then.
Oh, in that case, maybe I'll just do that.
It's available for free and it's very short.
Apparently, it's also on Genius.
Huh? Why? Is it a song?
I don't know, but that's where I found it, and it's on Genius.
It's very strange.
Interesting.
The next game is titled A Good Gardener. Developed and posted by somebody named Turnfollow. I think they made a couple other games as well. A Good Gardener has you plant a bunch of crops in a very secluded area with a vague story of a war going on around you that you get, drip feed information by an external NPC. Basically, I don't know about this.
I will say this is sadly the point where I kind of fell off of this year's itchmas, so I haven't, all the games from this point onward I haven't gotten to yet. But I'm curious if y'all have positive thoughts about any of the ones, any that I should particularly go back to. I'd love to hear them. But yeah, I don't have anything to say about this game other than that the cover art looked really
I will say that
intriguing.
the cover art drew me to it because it looked very Wes Anderson, and I was expecting a little bit more lighthearted sort of. Wes Anderson movies tend to be a little morose anyway, but they're just very pastel and brightly colored. This was another one that I just kind of gave up halfway. Like I finished the game, but I stopped caring about the seeds. I stopped caring about watering, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go back to bed. I'm gonna go back to bed until it gave me like a new narrative. There was no
consequences.
There was no punishment for not doing the seeds. Like after the first day, if they bloom or whatever, then it's fine. And then I just wasn't planting anything, wasn't watering anything, and the story just kept continuing. So I was like, oh, that has no consequence to me whatsoever.
Exactly.
Like maybe 15 minutes in, I was just like, just get me through this story, because there was like so little story to gameplay, and I was just getting tired. I was like, I just want the rest of the story. Like I don't need to keep planting without having like any sort of reward for it. Like if it was like you get through the story faster if you planted more, then fine, but that wasn't the case, so I gave up after a while. So it was kind of underwhelming once it finally did finish and
Yeah.
you got like the little twist, I guess.
Yeah, 100% agree. There was like so little story, so spread so goddamn thin, and none of the gameplay actually had any consequences or whatever. It did not matter at all. Nothing that you did. And I feel like the story probably like tried to tell some actually like impactful story about the horrors of war and whatever, like the typical stuff. But like it doesn't hit when it is so spread so thin, and also didn't really put any unique spin on it. I guess there is the spoiler alert, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. There is the reveal that your crops are used for the weapons used in the war, but like it has no bearing on you, and it doesn't really improve the story either. I don't know. The art style is the best thing about this, but it does not carry the rest.
Yeah.
Apparently this was also done for Ludum Dare, so like a game jam kind of thing. I can't tell what the theme was, though. This one seems like lost to time. It's been a while. The next game on the list, and we are nearing the end here, only a couple more. The next game on the list is called Delia, the Traveling Witch. I think actually released as a proper ROM for Game Boy Color.
It was developed and released by Kai Martin.
Oh, for Kai Martin. Yeah. This is a 2D platformer with some shmup elements, very story-driven in the way that there's tons of dialogue. And you're a witch trying to rescue a little familiar, a little piggy.
Yeah.
I mean, cute.
Ow.
Cute again, like with many of these. The presentation is great. There's some really, really nice sprite work in this.
Yeah, very GBC.
But really polished GBC for sure. The platforming is fine.
Yeah, I saw the screenshots and they look very
Plenty of
impressive.
boss fights in the game, but none of them are actually like challenging. I think the focus here was really more on the writing of the NPCs and the characters. Again, there's a ton of it, and it has this, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but it has this typical quirky style that I feel like is very rampant in indie games, which works sometimes, but it can also be grating. After a while. Yeah,
depends
on how much there is of it. I genuinely like this game. It was not terrible at all. And again, the developer has some genuine artistic skills. But, it's not like an amazing thing. Any thoughts from the...
This is the third game that I played, but I haven't beaten it yet. I only played like 2 stages. Just like, I was like playing a game for like 20 minutes one day. It felt very Kirby's Dream Land in how it played for me.
I'm glad you said that. Sorry.
I mean, one of the enemies is literally no. I don't. One of the enemies is literally just like Gordo.
Oh yeah.
The little spiked ball like enemy. I would say this game, from what I played at least, wasn't like amazing or anything for sure, but it seemed like nice little platformer thing. I agree, the art was quite nice. It feels like a high-end kind of GBC game feel. It was cute. I like that. The mechanics, I'm not always certain what some of the power-ups are actually doing. Like when you pick up the broom, I'm not sure what picking up the broom does, frankly.
You were able to jump higher.
Is that it? I couldn't tell if you like.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
I would not be able to tell.
The story, it definitely is a lot of dialogue. I agree, it has the quirky indie vibe. I enjoyed some of it, but it's one of those things like just seems like a nice, modest experience that doesn't particularly jump out. Very Kirby's Dream Land, like just quick little platformer.
Yeah, I played this one, but this was one of the ones that I retired because
that's
I think I played like through 2 levels or so. And I just didn't care. So I just stopped. And I was reading a lot of people's comments and they were just like, this wasn't that fun. And I was like, okay, well, if like nobody's having fun with it, I'm not going to force myself to get through it. So
I get
I want to say though that I think this is very much a case of a young developer with lots of promise.
Yeah.
And I think they've made other stuff since then that's probably much more fleshed out. So good on them for keeping going. So. All right, the next one is called Pakeis, developed by not a single person. This one, developed by I guess the group is called Pictura. This was, from what I gathered, a bigger project for an actual game development class somewhere in some uni or something. Some actual like educational thing where a class of wannabe game developers come together, students and teachers, to make this project. And it's an action adventure where you play an Inuit character on a kayak traveling through like Arctic waters. And I was unfortunately not really able to. This is the only game that I wasn't able to finish because I had technical difficulties with this. This ran like nonsense on my system, and I can't really say why either. It just was barely playable. Even though I was really excited for this one, I love the setting and it looks really, really nice. Did anybody here actually get to play this?
I played some of it. I also had controller issues, and also the net just wasn't working for me. I tried like 2 different controllers. I tried it with keyboard. Either it kept tabbing me out of the game, or the net just would fail to shoot. Watch somebody play it online. I don't feel like we really missed anything.
Holy shit.
I was also like really pumped for this one because this was around the point where I had just finished Dredge. So I was like, I need something that's a better fishing game or like boat related game to get Dredge out of my mind.
Yeah, but it's one of the most polishing looking games that I've seen on itch.io. It's really pretty. Second to last game that we got going on here is titled Off Peak, by a person named Cosmo D, who also has made more games, some of which are actually sold for money on Steam. So this person might know what they're doing. Off Peak is an exploration-based game where you explore a very strange, surreal train station and essentially try to find all the collectibles to escape. The surreal nature of this is definitely the highlight of this. And I mean, I'm down with this type of game. I like just running around and seeing all the strange things they come up with. And this really had a vibe of like Garry's Mod or Counter-Strike maps where people made weird stuff and threw it all together. That's what this felt like. The assets don't necessarily fit together, but in an intentional way, like that sort of thing. And I really like the atmosphere in this one.
Yeah, this was one of the ones that I enjoyed.
So this one that I voted for. I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to play this one yet because I voted for it and I was very intrigued with the surreal aesthetic that you were mentioning. Because I think it seems very much up my alley.
Yeah, I've already wish listed all the other ones that he's made. I'm ready to do like a whole marathon of their games. So
yeah, I'm very curious what they are gonna do, like with a more fleshed out thing. If I'm gonna pay $10, I want to really see where they are going with this, gameplay wise, especially.
One thing I want to say, because we're still talking about Off Peak.
Yeah,
this is a game I'm really interested in, primarily because when I looked at it, I have no idea what it actually could be, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's Off Peak.
Aside from that, it's like really artsy.
Yeah, ready to come to a conclusion here with the
grand finale.
And what a grand finale it is. This is Sheepy, a short adventure made by a person named Mr. Suicide Sheep. Apparently this person is like someone doing something. They have a lengthy link tree link. Like they got all sorts of things going on, but I've never heard of them. But apparently they made this game, this like darkly lit, cyberpunkish, dystopian 2D platformer where you play a cutesy sheep trying to survive a grim environment, and it's just fucking great. It's super, super polished. That undersells it.
Yeah, it's basically 2D Stray, but you play a plushie instead of a cat.
I think it's better than Stray.
Oh, definitely. Definitely better than Stray. You're a sheep in this one.
I think I'm sold by that description.
Yeah, this was on my. I had seen it on itch before itchmas, and it was already on my like to play list to begin with.
How dare you?
And mostly because there was a sheep involved, and I love sheep. But yeah, it's a solid
based on
platformer.
a musical YouTuber.
Yeah, but the soundtrack is created, as the description says, by Seeking Blue artists Tal, Richards, Halwick, and Yo Massey. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think the Mr. Suicide Sheep, I don't think he is an artist, a musician themselves. They just lead this label, it sounds to me. I'm actually really unsure about this.
Seeking Blue Records is
apparently they are a big thing.
Owned I believe, by the
I don't
artist
know.
guy, the music guy.
Yeah. And then they decided to make a game, and it fucking slaps. I don't know how this happened. It's so good. This was a banger for itchmas to end on. This was one of the best itchmas games we had over the years, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
I applaud
interesting
Sheep.
for sure. Sheep plot.
Sheep plot. Yeah, and I guess that concludes itchmas of December 2024. That is it. In my opinion, one of the most solid lineups, to be honest. Like, even the weaker ones usually weren't like horrible. Even the weaker ones were more in the mid-range, but a lot of really fun ones, in my opinion. I think I rarely play all of them either.
Yeah.
This might be the first time I actually played all of them. And that's mostly because they all actually seemed somewhat interesting. I mean, if there's a thing that, I don't care about it, I don't play it. But generally, this is like probably my favorite communal event on How Long to Beat. Itchmas is amazing. I love this. All the random weird indie games that you explore this way. It's good stuff. And all free. Who needs to pay money for Call of Duty?
I feel like with Itchmas, I always go in being like, man, I'm gonna play all these Itchmas games. And I end up playing only a handful, and then I'm like, next year I'm gonna play all these Itchmas games.
This was my very first time participating in
I
Itchmas,
definitely
so I don't
hope
have anything to
to
compare it to,
get
but
to
I
things
enjoyed
a
the
bit
experience.
more.
Looking forward to 2025.
Well, with that being said, I guess it's time for us to go move on to our final segment of this eternal episode. We're gonna finish this episode off with a round of Guess the Game, where the aim of the game is to guess the game. This has been adopted from a previous season. For those who are unfamiliar with it, one person, this time it is me, has prepared a game that the others have to guess by based on the completion notes other users have left on the website. There's a point system. You get more points the earlier you guess the game. I prepared a game for you to guess based on completions that I've picked out, completion notes that I've picked out. We are so many people. In the previous seasons, we had it. They had it. The game was chosen. It had to be a game the other person actually played. We are so many people, it's gonna be difficult to do this here. So I'm gonna give you this information beforehand. This is a game that Leah and Diallo have beaten, and Roy has on his backlog. That's what I can give you.
Oh, great.
Alright. My 3,000 game backlog.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
you're a bit disadvantaged here, but I don't think we're gonna be able to do it any better way. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna give you the first.
I don't
I'm
mind.
gonna give you 3 completion notes, all for the main
Ooh,
category.
giving a lot today.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this might be needed this time. All right, so number 1. DVR Lad played for 1 hour 47 minutes and said main story and then deleted as instructed. If you already have a guess, feel free.
Ooh.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not gonna guess yet.
Second
but
one.
I did immediately get a thought.
Anubis Ra Sekhmet played for 2 hours 33 minutes and wrote finished the main game / true ending. And then finally, remember these are all still main times. Finally,
Yeah, the times don't match up.
Rockstand Man played for 3 hours 36 minutes and says cute game.
Game.
Okay, I have a guess. I'm gonna guess Doki Doki Literature Club
Okay.
Very reasonable guess,
Alright,
but
so
wrong.
it's definitely not what I thought.
versus.
Is it Pony Island?
Hey, there you go. Yep, Leah won. It is Pony Island.
Nice.
And that is,
Well, there you go. Maybe you didn't need to give 3 guesses.
yeah. And I guess that is 3 points for guessing the game with only main completion notes.
Very well done.
That's right. At first, when I saw the game, I just saw what it said, the quote. I thought it may have been near.
Oh,
Then
yeah,
I saw
no,
the
definitely
time and I'm
not.
like, it's not
Near's on my
there.
backlog. Well, not technically. I don't own it yet, but it will be at some
On
point.
that dang wish list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. Well, With that exciting fanfare, whatever, this concludes our episode. Well, dear audience, if you got anything to say, feel free to leave a comment wherever you see fit, and we might somehow find it.
It may go into the void.
You can email us.
If we're being real, you can email us. You can leave comments on YouTube, on Spotify. I know they can leave comments. And we are also in the forum and on Discord. Just harass us. That's fine.
HLTBpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with us via that way, the other channels, like via the forums, via Discord, are also perfectly fine.
Let us know if you're as excited for Tetris CDI as we are.
Tell me about your favorite Tetris blog, Tetris Tetramino. That's what I want to know. Until the next episode, I don't know. Keep playing games, keep logging times, keep being cool. Bye, I guess. Anybody got something to say?
Until next time, bye.
Later.
See ya.
Bye-bye.